Hello, everyone in Blabland and YouTube land. Here we are, another episode of the Airline Pilot Guide, the 205th. And I really wish I could turn off those notifications, but I'm not going to try to do it again because we almost missed the cutoff for starting the blab before it just said it was over. Because I decided that I would try to change some settings, and it was we were scrambling. Just put it that way.
I was sitting here.
Yeah, well, yeah. She was watching me like freak out. Oh no! So, yeah. See how I'm signed in over here now?
Yeah,
I'm signed in as the other.
Yeah, I know. Well, I tried to point that out when you signed it in, but you were just so relieved to actually be on the air, you didn't care.
Yeah. Well, apparently I set up the blab with this account and not the other one, so that's what happened. Okay. Let's see. So we have that, the sound, and let me go here to the Evernote. Is Evernote working okay now, Rick?
It is, but I had to sign in through my account because it crashed. So I'm using my own little deal.
Okay. All right. Very well. And how about you, Nick? Are you signed in via the my credentials or your own?
What, into Evernote?
Uh-huh.
Yes, I'm in I think it's my credentials, yes.
Okay.
I just turned it on like I normally do, and everything magically appeared.
Okay. And let's see. Paul, you know what? You should probably invite Paul to share these things so he can see what we're looking at. Sorry, Paul.
That's all right.
Here we go. This won't take but just a couple seconds.
Ha, 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 Jeff. Ha, ha, ha. There are zebra stripes on my shoulders, Jeff. And Jen, I want to know what airport you think I'm running around. I'm assuming Bravo 32 would be Washington, I'm guessing. I don't know. Jen apparently saw my alter ego running around an airport, and she was about to run up to him and give him a big kiss, assuming it was me.
Oh, the old
right,
curmudgeon? He was running around?
Well, apparently, Jen says she saw me.
Somewhere in the Midwest, isn't that where she is?
I don't know. She just tweeted me a while back saying, I've just seen
I
you.
saw that.
Yeah, where are you, Jen?
Bravo 32. And I'm going, where the hell is that?
I think so. There we go.
CMH. I'm at CMH. CMH?
Oh, Columbus, Ohio. Mm-hmm. Port Columbus. I don't know why they call it a port, but they do.
Port Columbus.
Yeah.
Is that one the end of a very long river? Isn't there a fantastic story about them trying to make it into a major port by dredging the river?
It could be because they do have a river that flows by the downtown area, and I think they have the actual ship that Columbus sailed, or one of the something to do with Columbus. The
navigator.
The explorer, the navigator, whatever, the ship person, the guy that discovered America. Quotes.
Well, the guy that says he did it after the Vikings discovered it. And, of course,
I know.
Lots of other people were already there anyway. So
right.
Yes, that is true.
They're dodgy.
Okay, Paul, I just sent sharing links to both the news and the feedback.
Yeah, I am good, I think.
Okay, sweet.
I apologize, guys. I've just taken my shoes off.
Oh, I beat you to that.
Not a vision.
First thing I sat down, I was like, I'm taking my shoes off. Sorry.
Okay, and the way I have everything arranged, Paul, is chronologically, and then depending on your client, if you're using the web client or the Mac client or the Windows client, you can rearrange the from oldest to newest, top to bottom, or however you want to look at it. But that's the way we're gonna attack everything.
Sure.
Good.
Mm-hmm. Do I look like I've got malaria yet, Steph?
Hold on, I can't see. Oh,
what's happening? We're having a poor internet signal, it says. We're not seeing anybody's video.
Well, we can still see you, old chap.
Yeah, we can see you fine.
Okay.
Interesting.
So I can't get an online diagnosis. What a shame.
No, you can't. All we see is
sorry.
A fuzzy picture of your avatar.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Jeff and
hold that thought, and later
Jen,
on when I can see your
everybody
picture.
says that everybody's good.
All right.
I don't know why we're not getting it on ours.
No idea. Oh well.
Oh well.
Usually too little bandwidth. Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah, but I
Love
actually
you
have
too.
pretty good. I'm using the hotspot on my phone, and it was like 13 down and 13 or something.
Yeah, it's usually brilliant. By the way, I was talking about Jeffrey, not you, Jeff.
Oh, I'm sorry. Jeff Reg?
Yes,
Oh, there you are. I can
Jeff?
just
No, Jeffeg.
Jeff Feg. I don't know what a
Jeff
feg
Egg.
is.
the proper spelling.
Oh, no.
Okay.
I'm not going there.
No.
Sorry. Okay.
Well, we can see Nick, but only Nick.
Yeah, now it's just Nick. Hey, Rick,
Oh,
are you
you
still there?
lucky people. So how's
I'm here.
Okay. And
What?
Paul, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
I see all you guys.
Just
It's
weird.
weird.
Okay. Well, let's just start the show then.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's over with. Oh,
That's what she said.
before Rick melts?
I was waiting for someone to say that.
okay. So I'm going to turn down that for the moment. So we're going to turn down everybody on the blab, so we're not going to hear you. Okay. I'm going to turn your mic down. I'm going to leave mine up, and then I'm going to say, should I do this? I should probably do this.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Feel the power.
WAPG, Airline Pilot Guy.
Airline Pilot Guy, episode 205, recorded February 11th, 2016. Hello, you're listening to the Airline Pilot Guide Show, view from our side of the cockpit door. I'm Captain Jeff, your host, broadcasting live from Studio 6021 in the Marriott Hotel in Columbia, South Carolina. In this episode, batteries, bombs, drones, and more. So get all settled in. Tray tables and seatbacks in their upright and locked positions. Electronic devices powered on. Flight 205 is ready for pushback. That was kind of a short intro this time. Had more music to play. Hey, welcome to the Airline Pilot Guy Show, a show about, a little bit of everything, aviation related. I'm Captain Jeff, a captain for a major U.S. legacy carrier. And joining me by my side here live in the studio in Columbia, South Carolina, is the lovely Dr. Steph.
Hello, hello. Great to be back again for another wonderful show. Good to see all you guys and everyone live on the blab and out there in APG land.
Yeah, great to see you in person again.
Yeah, because I heard the weather was nicer down here. It's much warmer.
Yeah, not warm, but it's warmer.
Warmer.
Yeah, it's actually a beautiful day here in Columbia, South Carolina. The state capital of the Palmetto State.
Palmetto. Yep.
Palmetto.
The little palm tree.
Ah, that's what that means. Okay, and in the beautiful city of Miami, we have Miami Rick.
Hey, everybody. Miami Rick
Yeah,
here
he
in
was-
Miami.
Oh, wait. You know what? It's my fault. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Rick. Say it again.
Is that, I knew that was going to happen. I was trying to, signal across the interwebs here to.
We didn't
it
see your
work.
picture there, so we didn't see the warning.
Not a lot to look at anyway. So, down in Miami, it's beautiful down here as well. A little nippy, I would say. We're not used to this cold air making it all the way down here. So, but it's nice, clear blue skies. It's been a couple of busy days down to South America and back on the St. Valentine's Day runs to Quito and Bogota to go pick up flowers and stuff. So it's been a good couple of days. Looking forward to 205, and it's great to be back.
We're glad you're back delivering all the roses to all your Valentine ladies. Isn't that
It's
why
a tough job. Someone's got to do it.
You're right. I was in Fort Lauderdale on Monday night or Tuesday night. What day is today? Anyway, Tuesday night, I think. It was chilly down there. It really was. Also joining us from across the pond in the London area, we have Captain Nick.
Hello, Jeff and everybody. How are we all doing?
Wonderful.
We're fine. How are you?
Haha. Glad to be here, actually. Hello, Rex just disappeared. Glad to be here, having just flapped my wings and flown home from the lovely city of Lagos in Nigeria. So I've only got a week of taking anti-malarial pills to go, and I can relax again. But just got in, literally, about an hour and 5 minutes ago. So I had a quick bite to eat. I'm settling down with a beer. Looking forward to a great evening with you guys in the APGs.
Well, we're so happy that you made it back in time to be on the show with us today. And also in somewhere, I don't know exactly where Paul Whittle, the app guy, is located, but somewhere over in the UK. He's going to tell us here in a second. But Paul Whittle is the guy that is just our favorite guy right now, because he took it upon himself he volunteered to create these mobile apps, both for Android and iOS. And guess what? The iOS app has been released. So we're so happy about that. And we're so happy to have Paul on the show with us. Hello, Paul.
Hi. This is exciting, isn't it? I've been a listener for ever since, right from the start, pretty much, even before you rebranded the show. And to actually be a part of it tonight, incredible. So I'm definitely looking forward to it. And yes, the communication with Apple has all been resolved. The issues have been fixed. And as from about 5-10 minutes ago, the iOS app is now live in both the App Stores and the Android store as well. So that's great news. So
that is
very
fantastic.
much looking forward to tonight. Yeah.
So we asked Paul to be on the show with us so that he could talk about the individual apps and kind of give us some idea, if you don't already have the app and you haven't downloaded it, what the features are and possibly future implementations of various things. So, and looks like Rick is having trouble getting back in, and there he is. Okay, now I see him. It was open the whole time. Mm-hmm. So, welcome back, Rick.
Not yet, apparently. Oh, well.
He's trying to get back in.
There we go.
All right. Yeah. The seat was open the whole time, Rick.
That's weird. It wasn't showing up on this side, but okay, it's good. We're good to go.
Okay. Welcome back.
Thank you.
We had just introduced Paul Whittle, and he's going to tell us a little bit about the apps. And we had a kind of a preview of the iOS version. All the APG crew did for, I don't know, about a week or two.
A week or so. Yeah,
and I'm still learning how to use it myself, and there are some things that I can do to make it more interactive with the community, like putting stuff on the calendar and that kind of thing. So Paul, tell us about these great apps that you created for the community.
Sure. One of the great benefits of actually getting a first version of the app released to the Android store was that we had a lot of feedback from what the APJ community actually wanted and what they wanted to get involved in and what they wanted to see in the app. So going back and working on it a little bit further, you can now interact live with you guys. You can, not just you guys, you can see everybody who's a part of the APJ community who has the app on both Android and iOS. They can see where they are on a map. They can get in touch with them and speak to them without swapping any, personal information. It's got its own messaging system. They can download and listen to the podcast immediately. Whereas if they listen to the podcast via Apple or the App Store, there is usually a little bit of a delay between 12 and 24 hours. Using the app, they get access to the podcast as soon as it's released. It's a great feature called Where Am I, where you yourself, Jeff, will update wherever you are, where you're going to be. And if you've got some free time, users of the app can see that, and they can then download where you're going to be and arrange a meet with you. Links into Facebook, Twitter, all the YouTube videos, and a great way to also send feedback directly through the app, which will get sent straight to all of you guys. So it's been a lot of fun doing it as well. It's stressing sometimes, but it's been fun.
I tell you, I had a chance to play with it, and Paul, Absolutely great stuff. Great app. I mean, the just the graphics, the interface, how smoothly it runs. When we were testing the chat feature, you and I, it's just great. And I like the fact that you can tell where each member of the community is, how far away they physically are from you, based on on geotagging and all that stuff. And I thought it was great. And and I personally and all of us, thank you very, very much for all the hard work and and effort and all the patience that you've put into it. And we really are happy and thankful and privileged to have you do this for us. So,
oh, you're very welcome. One of the things when I was actually kind of building everything to put it together, when I opened it up the first time to see a map of the world with all the dots of where everybody is, and it wasn't concentrated on the US or Europe, it is genuinely spread all over the world. And I think that's a testament to kind of the APJ community, and it's pretty amazing to see, and it's really great to be able everything to kind of come together. And so that was from my point of view when I put it all together. I knew what I wanted to show, but I didn't know what it would look like. I didn't know where the users came from. It was all, and this, bear in mind, up until this point, has only been Android users. A lot of the market is iOS users, so they can use it on their iPhone and their iPad. There's 2 different versions. So this is only going to get bigger and bigger, which is really, really good for the APJ community, I think.
Well, I just opened up the app to see if I had updated my location here, and the first thing that popped up said, "Do you like this app?" So I'll just click. No, just kidding. No, it's a wonderful app.
The first thumbs down here.
No, I was just really impressed with its functionality, Paul. I mean, it's so smooth and it's quick and it's neat and it's great fun to look through. And I was just really impressed with, considering how early it is on in its development, how well you've done with your initial sort of version 1. And I'm sure there'll be a few changes. But I'm just so impressed. I mean, it can't be the first app you've written. It looks so professional.
I've written a couple of apps for like friends and family. This is the first one I've ever done for a podcast. I think it does tend to matter if I'm, if I genuinely have an interest. And because I've had an interest in aviation all my life, it was a lot. I genuinely found it fun to create this. It wasn't work for me as such. It was a lot of fun, and from my point of view, when I am creating it, a lot of the feedback that comes from the APJ community really helps which areas which I need to concentrate on. So yes, you're right, Nick. It's the first, version 1, but it's all to do with you guys and the feedback from the APJ community, in which we want to push the app in any new features or any changes, and maybe 1 or 2 little bugs. It's let me know, and that's the areas that I'll focus on to make sure that it can just get better.
Yeah. So, Paul, maybe you could take out the feedback thing part of it, because we already have way too much, and now we're getting even more. Stephen Ivy in the chat room said, "Okay, that means you're going to get even more feedback now, right?" He's right.
It's all right.
Bring it on.
We live off of that. I love it.
It also, you can upload videos and photos as well directly through the app as well. And we will be adding the ability to include audio feedback. So if you want to record through your device, a lot of them have built-in sound recorders on them. You can do that, and then you will be able to, in the next version, upload a voice file as well and send you audio feedback, which I know is very, very good for
Excellent.
Awesome.
We won't have to be here anymore, Jeff. We'll just play feedback.
Be the airline feedback guy.
For those of you just joining, the app now is available not only on the Android platform, but also the iOS, the Apple platform. And you can go to the App Store and you can search for it by putting in Airline Pilot Guy. 3 separate words. I think you can find it as well as Airline Pilot Guy, all one word as well. But I think, isn't it the best way to just do the 3 separate words, Paul?
Yes. It comes up as the second result if you just type Airline Pilot Guy in one word. But if you do Airline Space Pilot Space Guy, it'll come right at the top.
Okay. Now, a large part of the functionality of this is going to be me staying on top of things like putting out push notifications when podcasts are released and when we're about to have a blab and that kind of thing. And I'm not quite fully tuned into that yet, so I'm going to need some help from my crew.
I was going to say we can help you out with that.
Yeah, we'll take
we
care
can
of that.
manage that. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm never in Twitter anyway, so
Never.
I might have to.
So I'm doing the best I can, But anyway, so let's hear from anybody in the chat room that, well, you know what? A lot of the people in the chat room probably haven't had a chance to actually download and use the app yet. So, but we are open to future feature requests. And I'd like to personally, Paul, have more, like, is there a way to do, like, there's a thing, where am I, which is me, but what about the other 3 crew members? Is there a way to kind of implement that kind of function?
I'm making notes. So, yes, I'll add that on.
Yeah, I'm just going to make sure my wife doesn't download one of these then.
Maybe a function to turn it off.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a way to do that, right? Is there a way to say, you know what, I don't... Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, actually, the Where Am I thing is actually a thing that I have to go through. That's the reason. If you go right now and you look at Where Am I, you'll see that I'm nowhere because I have not put in the actual places where I'm going to be on this trip. And yeah, I know. You're shaking.
Yeah, I think if you look at your website, I don't think you've left the Atlanta airport in the last 27 years. I mean, you've been hanging out in Concorde.
It's like that movie, The Terminal. He's just stuck in there.
Yeah, you just change the background and you say you go places, and then we go meet you there.
I'm actually in Atlanta.
Okay, now let me say this:
they've made a movie about you.
Arash put that on the website. I have no control over that at all. I don't know what that is. I don't know how to update it. So that was something that Arash was talking about implementing in the future, and it just hasn't been implemented yet. So that's not me, but I will take the blame for not having whatever content is supposed to be there in the Where Am I right now, because it's not as easy as just uploading my schedule and then it's there magically. I have to actually go in and individually, Steph is showing
nothing.
It's a very nice blue gradient background.
It's a blue screen.
But anyway, that's why I have team members to help me.
There you go.
We're here for you.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're here actually, but you're not helping me with the app.
Right.
Yeah, if you leave it up to me, Jeff, I'll have you in all sorts of places like Timbuktu, out to Mongolia.
Oh boy, maybe I don't need their help then. So Paul, just that Where Am I thing, just like cross that out, take that out of the app.
Sorry.
Let Nick handle all of that.
It has a
you
really
must
cool
have a few
feature
fans in Timbuktu, I'm sure.
that does have a really cool feature where I can set up a geofence like around. I've done this for my APG headquarters building, my home in Roswell, and I can put within a certain radius. If you have the app and you happen to be driving within that radius, all of a sudden you'll get a push notification that says, "Hey, why don't you come by and join me for a beer or whatever?" So
nice.
It's kind of cool.
Great.
So I hopefully I'll be able to set more geofences up so that, let's say I'm here in Columbia, South Carolina all day long today. If anybody was within a certain radius, and it looks like right now, Paul, the largest radius I can make is like 9,999 kilometers.
Oh, I want to get it spread out.
Or meters or whatever. I'd like
kilometers.
Not kilometers, meters. I have trouble with the metric. But anyway, it looks like I'd like to make that circle a little bit bigger. I mean, it can only go out so far, so if that's possible.
Yeah,
but,
with that, Captain Jeff and the distances and me and the time zones, we got it all covered. We're good.
No one knows where they are, whether they're coming or going. It's a mess, you guys.
Can you change the font size? I don't know. Can you, Tony, in the I don't know if you can change the font size within the app itself, but I think that there is a way in the regular general settings of the app for you to change font sizes. I'm not sure, though. Is that true, Paul?
Some of the sections I do have the ability where you can go in and you can increase the font size if you want to read something. If it's a particular area, I know we've done a thing recently with the AV Herald, which just kind of show you on that. And then if you hit this button up here, you can hit the bigger A, and that will increase the font size in there.
Well, there you go. So, yeah. So maybe that's something that can be implemented in other areas as well, Paul. We're creating so much work for Paul. I feel guilty even saying anything. But we're just so thrilled that you've done this. Yes, Captain Nick.
No, I was just agreeing with you, Jeff. It's fantastic.
Okay. Yeah. It's I don't know how these people do this. These coders and developers and everything else. It must be very difficult to do something like this.
And it's genuinely a lot of fun when you kind of get. I remember when I first approached you and said, like, would you mind if I try to come up with something? And I didn't know at that time what it was that I was going to come out with. It was just once I got your approval and I sat down and started thinking about it and sketching out how I wanted things to look and what I think we could improve on, it became what it did. And as I said, a lot of it, came from the early release, which was released to Android 2 or 3 weeks ago, I believe. And the feedback that we got from that was incredibly good from my point of view, where I could say, you know what, Paul, why don't you try and do this? Or could we make this a little bit better? So it's definitely still early stages, and it was a lot of fun doing it, and it's going to be a lot of fun continuing to kind of improve it here, just hearing from people. So it's great.
Well, excellent. So everybody, if you haven't already done so, listening to our words right now, available on the Android and App Store. It's the Airline Pilot Guy app, and download it. It's free, and hopefully we'll continue to improve it. And the more of you that actually have it and use it, I think the better it will get, and looking forward to seeing where this goes. It's fantastic. So probably if there's anything else to add specifically about the apps, Paul, go ahead and do it now. Otherwise, we'll probably move on with the show and stay on with us as part of the crew today.
Yeah, sure. All I would say is any feedback or anything that you wish to improve, or if you've got your own ideas where you think it could be a little bit better, please just get in touch with us. You can email us directly through the app, or you can email support@theappguy.co.uk, and then I'll try and implement it as best I can.
Very good. Very good. Thank you, sir.
Brilliant.
All right. Let's see. Before we move on with the coffee fund and the news, Rick, were you on any, were you like, being a trader and being on other shows other than this show this past week?
Trader, never. I did,
he
however.
looks very smug there.
I did, however, join a great couple of guys at the over at the Hey Techies show. What was it? Last Thursday, I believe it was. And I was supposed to do it the week before that, but something came up for work and I couldn't join them. I joined the Hey Techies guys last week. We talked a little bit about the 777 and a little bit about drones and how the FAA now requires drone users to register their drones with the feds, and the impact of drones to commercial aviation and that kind of stuff. And had a great time. I was on for a little over an hour or so, but we're kind of long-winded, so it kind of went by really fast. But we had a great time, and those guys over there, they do a great job, and we had a great laugh and a good time.
I listened to it, and it was fantastic. I wasn't there live when you were doing the show live, but I did listen to the recording of the show. And if you want to check it out, the Hey Techies show, what do they call Chris? The Guru?
The Guru, yeah.
And
the Guru.
He's one of our community members, and he's a great guy. And we thank him for being there for us. And we'll put the link in the show notes. It was episode number 39 of the Hey Techies show. And so check out if you want to hear more of Rick going on and on and on about stuff, which is really interesting.
And it was good because they had no rickets, so I could just let it go. It was good stuff.
Yeah, you'll just have to put in your own rickets when you listen to their show.
Just imagine.
Also, a reminder that T-shirts will be available again soon, and we have a great relationship now with Justin at 32right.com. Right now, if you go to www.32right, you spell out RIGHT.com, you will see some of the aviation apparel available there. And you can do your shopping around. And when you check out, make sure you put in the promo code APG and you get 10% off. In the future, you'll start seeing some T-shirts from the APG show. And I'll let you know when that happens. But we're actually going to, instead of using Teespring, we're going to use 32 Right Apparel to do the shirts in the future. And we're going to have a special page and everything else for all that stuff. So look forward to working with Justin and his business. He's a student pilot, and he's a military veteran. And it's just great to have this relationship to be able to support what he's doing. And then he's supporting what we're doing. So we're all part of the same aviation community, and it's great. So, again, that's 32right.com. Check out the shirts he has available there. And, again, don't forget to use the code APG to get 10% off. And it also helps the show a little bit, too. And let's see. Anything else before we continue on?
I don't think so right now.
Okay, let's head over to this, and I'll push this button right here. It's time for the coffee fund.
Johnny, how much more coffee?
Oh, thanks.
Speaking of supporting the show, we have a little something called the Coffee Fund at the Airline Pilot Guy Show, and that is your way to support the show with your financial contributions if you have the resources to do so. And you can learn more about the Coffee Fund by heading over to airlinepilotguy.com/coffee. And since the last episode, we've had several people give us contributions, including Adam Waterfield, Brandon McKay, Neville Bounds, Jeff Moeller, Dave Willis, and Don Sebastian from Aviation Consulting Services Incorporated. They all use the Coffee Fund Classic method, and you can use that to do a recurring contribution or a one-time contribution, whatever, any amount, doesn't matter. And we also have a different way of contributing to the show called Patreon. And since the last show, we have a new patron, and he is Drew Stevens. Thank you, Drew, for signing up as a patron. And that way, that's the way you can contribute to the show, by giving us a certain amount per episode. And you can say how much, like if we go crazy and we do 10 episodes a month, and break your bank, we won't do that. You can specify the maximum amount that you want to give to the show via Patreon. Again, you can find out all about the different ways to contribute to the show by heading over to airlinepilotguy.com/coffee. And while we're at it, why don't we again thank those who have given at a certain level, and that is the $5 per episode level and up. And let's start from the top. The top tier, we have Aaron Rui, Asa Harmon, Anthony Tibbs, Matt Donnemeyer, Mike Ham,
Lee Hayden, Father Jeremiah Payne, Justin Williams, Chris Bond, Nick Carson, Larry James, Larry Gregory, Doug Miami. Is that right?
I think so.
Yeah, I
Miami.
stole it out from us before. Andrew Espig, John Chavatal, Jim G, Richard Miller, Matthew
Shikirk, I guess, or Shikirk.
Adam Meacham, Dan Faulkner, Stephen Wisniewski, sorry, and Ryan Cotton.
Remember meeting Ryan at the Asheville
sure do.
meetup? Yeah, so thank you, all of you who contribute to Patreon, and especially our special tier of patrons. We thank you so much for your support. All right. With that, I think it's time for the news.
Stand by for news.
Now, we talked about this incident of the Somali airline, or was it a Somali airline? Oh, shoot, now I've already forgotten. Is that right? Okay.
I think so. That's what it says.
DAALLO, Dalo, the airline and the in-flight explosion. Learned a little bit more about it. It wasn't just an accidental, oxygen bottle exploding or whatever. At that point, we weren't sure exactly what caused the explosion. Turns out that it was a terrorist-related event. And apparently the Somali... let's see, it was a Somali person, right? A Somali national that set off the explosive device, apparently used a wheelchair to kind of get the bomb through security. And I'm not sure exactly how that happened, but he managed to evade security checks at Mogadishu's international airport. The alleged bomber then detonated the bomb soon after takeoff, which blew a hole in the Airbus A321's fuselage. But it did not bring the airplane down. The newspaper said the force of the blast ejected the alleged bomber from the cabin. His body was recovered near the town of Balad, about 20 miles from Mogadishu. So that's a little disconcerting to see, again, terrorists succeeded in getting an explosive device past security and on an airliner, and could have brought this airplane down. I think if he had detonated it at a higher altitude, I think that could have been, catastrophic.
Yeah, exactly right. As you said, it was good that the aircraft was just going through between 12,000 and 14,000 feet, and the reason why I guess when the device went off, it wasn't as catastrophic as it could have been, was because the what's called the delta P, or the difference in pressure between the cabin, as the cabin's pressurized, and the outside air ambient total pressure out there, that pressure differential wasn't as great because the aircraft hadn't reached cruising altitude yet. You have to think about the fact that when you are at cruise altitude, in between the low 30s to high 30s, the difference in pressure between the cabin and the outside can go as high up as 8.5 psi, so 8.5 pounds per square inch. That is a lot of pressure. So every square inch of that cabin, there's 8.5 pounds pressing on it. And so if there is a weak spot or any kind of explosion that is going to weaken that pressure vessel, then all that air, all that pressure is going to go out through there. And that can prove catastrophic, as was the case with the A320 down in Egypt a couple of months ago. So it was, they got lucky at the fact that that thing went off at 13,000 feet. So.
And we have a winner. Pilot Pip has won bingo. He said, "Yay, Delta P! I'm winning at ABG bingo tonight."
Really? There's a bingo going on? Nice.
Yeah.
Apparently, in Pip's head.
We'll have to make a new one. I remember a long time ago someone had the.
There was the APG bingo. APG bingo. I remember that one.
Yeah, we'll make it.
I think
we need to.
I think like APG. I mean, what was it? What's that beer that you like so much? That was on there. IPA was on there, or there's a bunch of words there. That's good stuff.
Almost. So I was chatting to Pip this afternoon. We were coming across Europe, and I checked in on one of the, I think, Marseille frequencies, and little voice said, "Hi, Nick." And it was a bit too short a transmission for me to work out who it was. So I guessed at Captain Al, but no, it turned out to be Pip. So we whipped across to a private frequency and passed the time of day for a few minutes. So hi, Pip. Glad you made it in safely to Paris. I think that's where you were going. And lovely to have the few seconds of chat.
Did you go in 2345?
Certainly not.
I bet he did.
I went on to our company private frequency.
Okay. Whatever that is. He's just going to make something up.
Exactly.
Anyway, he said, "Nice chatting with you too." So, interestingly, I was non-revving on a flight back from California last weekend. And as I got off the airplane, one of the flight attendants, a male flight attendant, said, "Hey, I listened to your show on YouTube." I went, "Oh, hey, thanks." Didn't have a chance to talk with him at all, but that was kind of cool.
Nice.
Yeah. Anyway, so anything else we want to talk about regarding the Somali bombing?
No, I guess it was just
no, but he had military grade TNT. Now, that sort of stuff is not the stuff that the average tourist knocks up in his garage. That's serious stuff. Hard to detect, very effective because, of course, it's in small quantities. And because it's such a highly effective explosive, it only needs to be in small quantities. So it can be very easily hidden. So that in itself is very worrying.
Apparently, they were supposed to be on a Turkish flight, and I think that the Turkish airline got some kind of intel about this, and they actually canceled the flight, and so they went on this other airline and exploded the device. But I really haven't heard much about this in the news. Have you?
Not here. No, I mean not since like the day or the week.
I mean, did any group like Al Qaeda or?
Yeah, I think they said even in the article that it was they believe it was orchestrated by Al Qaeda,
and
one of their
Qaeda affiliate,
Al-Shabaab.
Al-Shabaab. Yeah, said they were.
Yeah.
Al-Shabaab. Yep.
Okay. Well, maybe I should read the article then next time. I'll know a little bit more. Okay. Let's move on. In Arizona, outside of the town of Maricopa, there was a P-51 being piloted by Jeffrey Pino, former president of Sikorsky Aircraft, a Connecticut-based aircraft manufacturer. And with him was a 72-year-old Nicholas Tramontano of Brookfield, Connecticut. And the airplane crashed, and both were killed. And looks like it may have hit some what do they call those, power lines or something. I don't know if that was because it was already coming down or if that's what caused the accident.
It looks almost like it's on the side of a small road.
Yeah, I saw some video of the fire and trying to put out the fire, and some people being interviewed regarding it and that lived nearby, and they said it was just a big explosion and a big fireball. But anyway, it's sad to lose 2 human lives, and also it's kind of sad to lose this P-51D Mustang. Great airplane, World War II vintage.
Great airplane, but not easy to fly. And I don't know about this gentleman's experience level and his, how often he was able to fly, but it is a problem. Owning an airplane like that, it must be very nice, but managing to have time to keep your eyes up, keep your hand in, I don't know. That it may well be the situation that he was well practiced, but it does worry me sometimes that some of the owners of these planes are not exactly keeping their eyes up.
Well, moving on. Drones. Of course, we always talk about drones in this show. A drone crashed into the Empire State Building last Thursday night. Sources told CBS 2 the suspect has been identified as Sean Riddle. Sean was flying his drone and accidentally crashed it into the 40th floor of the Empire State Building. And then, brilliantly, I guess I should play this one right here. Oh, I can hardly hear that, sorry. Turn it up. Brilliant! He decided to tweet about it. And so his tweet was, filming with drone, now it's stuck on the Empire State Building with security. And so he apparently called the building security and asked for his drone back.
Hey, I accidentally crashed my drone into your, large building in Midtown Manhattan. Can I get that back?
Yes.
Yeah, let me have it back, please.
Guess what happened?
You got arrested?
He's tweeting from jail now?
Yeah, he got arrested, charged with reckless endangerment and navigation inside the city. So, goes to show you, if you're going to crash your drone into the Empire State Building, probably not good to tweet about it and then to call up the security people and ask for your drone
maybe
back.
Just cut your losses.
Yeah, just say, you know what?
I don't know anything
I'm
about
good.
that. Yeah. No.
Just buy another one.
Just don't do that in the first place.
Exactly. That's probably better.
Yeah. And then finally, this is very important, and I think Rick would agree. I think all of us agree. And this is from Doug Betts. He says, wow, impressive and incredibly scary video, which is included in the article that he gave us a link to. Most disturbing was the fact that the halon fire suppression system in a Class C cargo compartment on a passenger jet is incapable of preventing an explosion of the gases emitted by runaway lithium-ion batteries. And then a link to this article, which talks about the FAA recently issued a critical safety alert for operators, a SAFO, or SAFO, I don't know how that's pronounced, to airlines on lithium batteries. They are urging, the FAA is urging foreign commercial passenger and cargo airlines to conduct a safety risk assessment to manage the risks associated with transporting lithium batteries as cargo. The FAA encourages airlines which previously conducted safety assessments to reevaluate them in light of new evidence from the agency's recent lithium battery fire tests. And it goes on to talk about what they did with the tests and the results of the tests. And let me just say it this way. It is not good, and it's very dangerous. The FAA is now recommending operators wishing to carry lithium-ion batteries as cargo to review the following mitigation strategies. And again, they list several different things about the number of lithium batteries, not putting them in high-density packages, and training people who handle the lithium batteries as to the risks and dangers associated with them. So, Rick, what do you have to say about all this?
Well, we did actually get a communique from the airline, from my airline, a couple of days ago regarding this very issue, and we heard that they told us that we were going to be hearing back from them as far as what the course of action is going to be, because as you all know, and you all know how I feel about this, the fact that if you get a fire going, a lithium-ion battery fire going, based on that video and based on everything that is available to us, I mean, that's not something that you walk away from, particularly when you're flying very long sectors over the ocean. There's really no place to put that aircraft down. And also the fact that a lot of aircraft, including the kind of aircraft that I fly, the fire suppression system on the main deck, which is where we usually carry these batteries, is not a chemical type fire suppression system. So basically what we do, as I've said many times, is we descend down to 25,000 feet, depressurize the airplane, and hope to starve the fire from oxygen that way. But the way these fires burn and the intensity that these fires burn with is really something that you cannot mitigate. And so, as I said, we were told earlier this week that we would hear back from the Safety Department as far as this is concerned. And when I hear something back from them, I'll let you guys know. I'm sure that certain airlines, several airlines, must be taking the same steps to deal with this particular situation. It is interesting. It is very worrying. I've told you, and I've shared with all of you, my feelings about this whole thing. This is the one thing really that scares me to death every time I have to sign paperwork saying that we're carrying these kinds of batteries. I go, man, I hope they handled them right, because if they didn't, then it's not gonna. I'm not gonna be around for the next episode, and that would not be cool. So so we're hoping that they're doing their job right, and I'm hoping that we hear back from the airline. And as far as this is concerned, when I do, as I said, I'll let you guys know.
Yeah, please do.
Excellent. Anything to add to that, Nick?
Not really. On a passenger aircraft, we permit lithium batteries to be carried as part of your hand luggage, like a spare battery for your laptop or camera or whatever, but nothing should be in the cargo. So anyone carrying lithium batteries should put nothing in their suitcases, because that's obviously the area where they might go off. But we're talking here in this particular experiment, carrying them en masse, so a fair number. And what worries me on Rick's behalf is that they have a real explosive quality when they ignite properly, and it's like having an explosive go off. And there's huge amount of heat and flame, as well as great overpressure involved. So it could be a catastrophic event.
Yeah, and for you guys and gals who don't really know how we handle these, basically these have a particular protocol. These can't be out in the open. These can't be left out in the sun. These have to be kept at a certain temperature. And then when we carry them, we always, as a procedure, have to set the temperature for the main deck and the lower cargo decks to the coldest temperature possible, to try to keep these batteries as cold as possible. Now, the coldest temperature the decks go to is 4 degrees centigrade. So, which is it's not freezing cold, but it's cold enough. So that's kind of how we deal with them. And as Captain Nick said, and I remember back from my passenger days, lithium-ion batteries were not allowed on passenger aircraft at all whatsoever. And that's the reason why we cargo pilots kind of have to deal with this kind of cargo, because it's really the fastest way to get them from A to B, and the only way to get them from A to B in a as quickly as possible. So it's going to be interesting to see what comes from this. So we'll see.
You guys
If you don't
remind me
mind
what
is-
kind of batteries are in a 787? I was just curious. I think they're
I think they might be
lithium-ion?
lithium.
Lithium something? Lithium ion?
Lithium
So
something.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering how the FAA regulations with carrying an awful lot of batteries together in a small space, they get around that.
They have a special enclosure that they put them in because they figure that these things will actually catch on fire occasionally. Interestingly, I know that the Airbus decided at first they were planning on using the same battery technology that Boeing did with the Dreamliner on their new A350s, but then they kind of backtracked when Boeing was having all this trouble with the Dreamliner batteries. But then it didn't really get mentioned a lot in the media, but I think that they have again changed their mind and decided to start using these batteries again. I don't know if you guys know anything about that, but very quietly, I think they decided, the power to weight ratio and all that kind of stuff is so much better with the lithium / whatever technology. So we're going to go ahead and try to use them again. But again, I'm not an official spokesperson for the company. I could be completely wrong about that. But if anybody out there knows, maybe you can let us know.
It's definitely interesting from a consumer point of view as well, because Rick, you mentioned you've got to keep them cool, 4 degrees, you said.
Yep.
Whereas in England recently, there has been a huge recall on, look a little bit like Segways in a skateboard, which are powered by these lithium batteries. And they've pretty much said, don't buy them, because if you charge them, there's been multiple cases of them overheating and then bursting into flames. And so it's definitely interesting how you say, how careful you've got to control them before you carry them as cargo to a regular somebody who's just went out and bought one. It's got these lithium batteries in, and they're charging them overnight, and people's houses have been set on fire and things because of these batteries. So it's definitely opened your eyes a little bit to how dangerous these are if they aren't controlled properly.
Exactly right. Now, on and we've said this several times on the show, on an aircraft, whatever make or model it is, we practice for any kind of system failure, and for every system, there's a subsystem and a subsystem to that, and there's backups to backups, and that's all great, and that's what we go to the sim for. But if you get a fire going in the aircraft somewhere, that is really something that it's time critical, and that is really something that that really makes me nervous. Like dealing with fires on board. It's particularly the kind of flying that I do when the closest airport is 3 hours flight time away. So that really is what So yeah, fire stuff on board, dangerous, not good.
Yeah, Tony asks about what the unions say about carrying these batteries. The Airline Pilots Association, the largest union representing airline pilots in the United States, have come out, several times saying that they don't belong in any of our airplanes, and they're working hard in Washington to lobby the FAA and others to ban them completely from any kind of airliner, whether it be a cargo, a freighter airline or a Part 121 passenger airline. So they are definitely against carrying this battery technology.
Interesting, but particularly since two major aircraft manufacturers are going to be using them to power the aircraft, it kind of defies logic. And Airbus apparently is nearing final approvals for the A350 lithium-ion batteries, but they confidently say that our system will have a different architecture than Boeing.
Okay, so you did confirm then that they are going to switch back to that lithium technology.
Once they get final approval, it looks like it. Yep.
Okay. Good. I'm glad I wasn't completely wrong about that.
No.
Yeah. And before we move on, I just want to make sure that we understand here that as long as these things are handled correctly and are put together correctly and kept at the temperature where they have to be, then things should be fine. The problem is that a lot of times these batteries are made, not using the best methodology, I guess, and they're not put together the right way in an effort to save money and increase profit margins.
Batteries,
And so when you
high quality lithium and low quality.
exactly right. So when you start cutting corners, and then on top of that you don't handle them correctly, then that's when problems could arise.
Absolutely. Just a quick break here, and an edit point. What does that say on my recorder right there?
5620.
5620. Okay, so I'll know where to look. We unfortunately, I guess everybody in the chat room is still hearing everybody just fine. How about the people on the panel here? Are you hearing everything just fine?
Yeah, Rick had a moment of twanging from my end, but other than that, it was fine.
Okay, because I think my internet signal using my phone hotspot is kind of going in and out, and so. Okay, they lost Rick's. So it's not just us.
Yeah.
Okay, so it looks like we can still hear you.
So they lost me.
Don't see your video.
I can see you.
You don't see me. Okay.
You're just slowed up, and Jeff, your video is pretty poor quality compared with what it usually is.
Okay, yeah, it must be.
I think there is something on our end here.
Unfortunately, the hotel bandwidth is even worse than my phone bandwidth, so I guess we'll just have to deal with it.
Paul
Rick is tricky at times. Yeah, that's true. Oh, you mean the video?
Mind you, being the app guy, he should have a damn good connection.
He should.
Yeah, his has been fine.
I'm not jerking. I'm pretty smooth.
Okay, yeah. So everybody's saying that Rick was Skyping a little bit. Okay. Well, let's see. Let's move on to the best part of the show, which of course is all of your feedback. If I can just find the button for me to do right here. Let's try that again. Turn this knob up.
Captain, incoming message.
All right, let's start with some audio feedback that we received about 3 weeks ago or so from Barton.
Hello, Captain Jeff and crew. This is Barton from Lexington. I'm just out on a walk with Boone, the dog, late at night. The wife's out of town, and I thought, what else to do than walk the dog? I actually have two questions. Captain Jeff, unfortunately, neither one are for you. I'm sorry. But I feel like your crew members need a little attention. First off, thank you for all that you all have done. I'm just listening to 200 as I make this podcast. And it's just, I think it goes without saying how many people you all touch with your podcast, and it's incredible. But anyway, with the questions, first one is for Miami Rick, who we had a brief chat on Twitter about it, but I am going to Rome with my wife later in the year on a American carrier 777-200, and just wanted to ask Rick if there was anything as a window passenger that I could look for during the flight. I know he has brought up before that, and I can't remember specifically, but at 80 knots, maybe the flaperons actually get their hydraulic power. Anything else like that would be great, so that I could bore my wife into sleep any faster than I normally do on a flight. Second question would be for Dr. Steph. And Dr. Steph, this is coming from someone whose pilot aspirations at this point are no longer commercial, but would be private. And other than monetarily, I would just ask, what would be, in your opinion, the biggest hurdle for someone trying to become a pilot, private pilot? Maybe biggest hurdle, biggest challenge, you get the idea. Anyway, just thank you for the time, and just cannot thank you all enough for all that you do. It's incredible. Captain Jeff, I've found your podcast years ago, and I've just enjoyed watching it grow so much. And I know just the other day you checked in at Louisville International Airport, and I had to chuckle. I'm very close to there, and I feel like it's just great what you all do. So please keep it up, and just blue skies and tailwinds at cruise. Thank you.
Brilliant.
That was
Okay.
brilliant.
Rick.
Yes,
go
sir.
for it. The Ricketts ready.
All right, the Ricketts are ready. Good deal. Yeah, so you set the flapper on. That's a good one. The second you select tug of power, that actuator depressurizes and it repressurizes the second you cross 80 knots. And so you can see how it goes back to its takeoff position. That's one thing. Another thing is you can see how the outboard ailerons, those deactivate at 250 knots and then reactivate at 250 knots. Below 250, you use both the outboard and inboard ailerons, and above 250, only the inboard ailerons and spoilers. That's another thing. If you're sitting on the front part of the wing and you look back, you're going to see that you don't only have slats, you also have a Kruger flap between the outside portion of the engine nacelle and the engine pylon. And it's the only place on that wing that Kruger flaps are employed. So you have one on the left-hand wing and one on the right-hand wing. I guess another thing you can kind of look for is when you're done, when the flaps go up after the flaps retract. I guess the slats retract from the one position to the up position. Usually about 5 or 6 seconds later, if you're sitting on the center portion of the airplane, you can actually hear how the center hydraulic system depressurizes. And the landing gear is now locked by the uplocks. You can actually hear that clicking sound. What else do I got on that? Off the top of my head, that's what I got on that. It's I think that should be enough to put your wife to sleep. If I haven't put all of you guys to sleep yet, have I? Did I? You see, it worked. There you go.
What?
Everybody's sleeping now.
Are we still doing the show?
Your show, Rick. Yeah, you can just carry on regardless.
So if it worked on the panel here, then it should be no problem with it.
Yeah. At what point do those bits start falling off it, Rick?
What's that?
There must be something falls off it. I mean, the bits of 777 littered all over the world. So at what point should he look for bits coming off?
When you're flying over Toulouse, particularly, where those ugly Airbuses are put together.
Okay, just wondered.
All right, so second part of the question, I'll tackle that real quick. Just barriers and hurdles to getting a private pilot certificate. I think it's going to be different for, everyone depending on their age, where they are in their life, what their work schedule is like. If you're not looking to become an airline pilot or, fly for a living, but just doing it, for pleasure and enjoyment, then I don't know that there's too much in the way of hurdles besides the big one that you mentioned, which is monetary. It's always going to be expensive. That you don't want me to get into that, but that's always the biggest one. I guess the second thing is just time. I mean, that's the biggest thing that I run into because my job is not in aviation, so I have to find time outside of work to go and fly, and sometimes that's difficult and tricky to do because you have other interests and hobbies and obligations and family and work and all of that good stuff. So I think those are the two biggest hurdles. Beyond that, I guess other hurdles could include medical things if that's something that's a concern. I don't know. I think those are the biggest things I could think of. I don't know if anyone else has any thoughts on that too.
I don't know. That's definitely the money.
But, if you're flying for just your own personal enjoyment, even if you don't have a medical certificate, I guess the other thing too might be access. Depends on where you are. Certainly here in the United States, that's generally not a problem because there are so many small airports and general aviation airports and places to learn to go fly. It's pretty accessible. I know that's not the case around the world or for everyone. But you can always go up with an instructor if you have to. There's always people who want to go flying, so you can always split costs that way. There's not too many hurdles other than those.
Very well, or very good. Rick, I understand that you have kind of a follow-up to something that we discussed last episode regarding ADS-B.
Yeah. So remember, guys and gals, I told you that we talked about the fact that over the western part of the Bogota FIR flight information region, over the Pacific, there, south of Panama and north of Ecuador, every time you check in with ATC on that particular sector, they make sure to tell you that they have no radar coverage, and then they expect you to give them a position report as you cross the portion, the point going into the FIR, and what time you expect to leave the FIR, and your speed and all that stuff. So basically, they can figure out where you are, and that's because they don't have radar coverage. And so last week, I went down there and I asked them, do you guys have ADS on this particular airspace? And the controller lady, she said that they do have it, but they don't use it because they're not certified to use it. It's not a certified system, and it's not something that they can use officially to keep track of aircraft and keep separation, positive separation of aircraft. So basically, that's the answer on that. They do have it, but they're not allowed to use it.
Okay, very well. Yeah, it would be nice though just to have like an unofficial network and somehow gain access to it so you can kind of be aware of everything that's going on over there. But alas, if it's not officially recognized by the regulatory authority, then you can't use them.
Yep.
All right. Ross from England had a question for us. He said, CPJ, I guess that's me, MIR, Miami Rick, DRS, I guess that's Dr. Steph, and Ye Old Curmudgeon.
Who's that?
He didn't get any letters or acronym or anything. He just got Old Curmudgeon.
I have no idea who that is, but he sounds a wonderful guy.
Never.
I think we're going to actually hear from that old guy sometime later in the show. Anyway, moving on with Ross. He says, on a previous show, someone mentioned that you can't decelerate and descend at the same time. Did I hear that correctly? Why is that? Surely, if you back the throttles off completely, the plane would slow and descend. What am I missing? Glad to be part of the community and pleased we're at 200. It's a great show. Well done. Well, thank you, Ross. That would be me. I said something to the effect that coming into various places around the United States, at least, especially Atlanta, the place that I fly into quite a bit, since I'm based in Atlanta. The idea that slowing down would somehow help us to come down more quickly, and I think I probably threw out, well, you can't slow down and descend at the same time. Well, certainly you can. It's just that you can't do it very efficiently and effectively. If you are at a slower airspeed and then you trade that slower speed for more speed, in other words, you allow yourself to accelerate, your descent rate will increase quite a bit. But if the air traffic controller wants you to slow down and increase your rate of descent at the same time, that's when you have to use speed brakes and any other kind of drag devices that you have on your airplane. And that may not be enough to satisfy the air traffic controller wanting you to slow down and to descend more quickly at the same time. And that's kind of what I was getting at. But obviously, yes, you're right. If you back the throttles off completely, which you would have if you were doing that kind of descent, it's just that it's physics. You have to trade kinetic energy for potential energy and potential energy for kinetic energy, and there's a relationship there, a direct relationship. Anything to add, Captain Nick or Miami?
Well,
Rick?
yeah. I mean, our aircraft, the Airbuses, are very slick. So what you need to do is have a sufficiently draggy old airplane. It's like an old Boeing, so that when you close the throttles, it like stops in midair, and then it's fairly easy. But when you're driving an aerodynamically efficient machine like one of the modern Airbuses, because closing the throttles doesn't actually create a lot of drag. And you're judging your descent path already, calculating on doing it with the throttles pretty much closed. I mean, that is the most efficient and fuel-saving way of getting down. So your computers and you eyeballing it and judging your descent rate will do that. Now, so you're coming down with the throttles more or less closed, and you're gliding down to hit a constraint. And if the air trafficker says, well, no, I want you to lose 50 knots, you're going to go, well, I've got to start sticking out drag devices now. That's inefficient. It's uncomfortable for the passengers and not pleasant. So we try not to use them if we possibly can. So we much prefer to get a little bit of advance warning so that we can descend a little early and slow down when we're in level flight, which is so much easier.
Now, I understand that that the Airbuses, I don't know if this applies to the 330s and 340s, but I know in the 320s, when you have the autopilot system on and you deploy speed brakes, they're only going to deploy halfway, right? And if you want to have those speed brakes come out all the way, you need to disconnect the autopilot. Does that apply on the 340 that you fly,
can
or
use
in the
full
330?
speed brake without any restriction. The only time that the speed brake deflection is restricted is when you got flap out.
Okay. Well, see, for us on the 777, we have no, as you, Captain Nick, we have no restriction on speed brakes. They come out all the way. And we can use, on the 777, we can use speed brake all the way up to flap 15. Now, the Airbuses have 4 flap gates, 1, 2, 3, and 4. On the Boeings that I've flown, at least, we have flap 1, 5, 15, 20, 25, and 30. Flap 5 to flap 20 being takeoff settings, and flap 25 and 30 being landing settings. And so on the 777, we can use speed brake all the way out to flap 15. There's no restriction on that. And as Captain Jeff said, it is a game of trading your potential energy for kinetic energy and back, because when you're doing a descent, an idle descent, you are basically your rate of descent without speed brake really depends on your speed. So the more speed you dial in, then the lower the autopilot system needs to pitch that nose to satisfy that speed, request. And then once you get to that speed the speed that you dialed in, then the aircraft's going to hold that pitch. And if you have to reduce your speed, then the aircraft's going to pitch up to decelerate to that speed. But by pitching up, your rate of descent is going to decrease as well. And that's when the speed brakes come in. But there's only so much the speed brakes can do. So it's interesting. On these newer type airplanes, also on the flight management systems, we have a page where you're going to include what's called your descent forecast winds. And based on those winds, the FMC or the flight management computer is going to figure out where your top of descent is based on all the constraints required or set forth on your navigational computer. So say, for example, you have a constraint of crossing a certain point at 250 knots and 10,000 feet, but you have a lot of tailwind that day. So since that is the case, the FMC or the flight management computer is going to figure out that your top of descent should be a little bit beforehand so that that tailwind does not affect you making that speed and altitude constraint. But still, you're still going to do your 3-to-1 cross check. Basically taking your distance to that point and multiplying that times 3 to figure out mentally, giving you a ballpark figure of where you should be. Basic piloting skill there. Something that no matter how modern the aircraft is that you're flying in, something that you should never lose. So yeah, there you go. There's a Ricketts.
That was Stephanie that pushed that button, not me.
Was it?
Very good. Very good. All right.
Yeah, but he's told me I could press it. So I had permission.
We conspired together.
Yeah. Really?
Sorry.
You're doing Jeff's dirty work.
This is from Lucas. Wagwan Kaptan. How'd I do?
Better than I can do with that, I'm sure.
Wagwan Mon. Translation, what is going on? Jamaican. I heard you mention my home country, Jamaica, on episode 201, so I've decided to come out of lurker status. Welcome, Lucas. He is no longer lurker, but he's now Lucas from Jamaica. I'm currently working and doing part-time school, shooting for an aeronautical engineering degree in Maryland. Tough,
Nice.
I know. But I've always been fascinated by planes and the flow of air, so I know they are both tied to my future somewhere. My most memorable airplane encounter was when I was on vacation visiting my aunt in Long Island, New York. We were on the expressway beside the JFK runway. I was craning my neck to see if I could catch a glimpse of maybe a 747 taking off or something, but I was treated with something even more memorable. I was almost deafened by this ridiculously loud engine sound, thinking to myself, I didn't know jet engines could get this loud. When I cast my eyes upward, my aunt, a former JFK Aer Lingus employee, said half to me and half to herself, yes, now is about the time it comes in. The delta wing of a British Airways Concorde passed right over us to touch down on the runway. I was awestruck. That was the only time I ever got to see it up close in flight. When I was much younger, I saw its silhouette against the sun one time briefly in England, again attracted by the loud engine sound, despite it being way up in the sky on approach. It was one of my biggest regrets that we didn't get regular service to Jamaica, simply so I could watch it take off and land from time to time. I heard it landed in Montego Bay once, but our runways were deemed too short for regular service. I also suspect the clientele from Jamaica would not be able to afford the steep ticket price. But anyway, I could go on and on about my Concorde fascination. I actually wanted to ask, what are your Miami Rick and Captain Nick's aerial encounters with Concorde while it was in service? Next time you have a stop, OVA?
No, next time you have a stopover in Baltimore,
gotcha.
I'll take a red stripe with you. Respect.
Over in Baltimore. I can't do a Jamaica accent.
Oh,
Come on.
no, I can't do it again. I just
Come on.
listening. It says, next time you have a stopover in Jamaica, link up. Well, clink a red stripe with you. Respect.
Oh, that's good.
Nice.
Thank you, Lucas. Hope we didn't,
Nailed it.
I hope that wasn't
butcher that too
terrible.
much.
I have no idea. I'm sorry if it was.
Excellent.
That was perfect. The
I
next
like it.
episode, Steph's gonna be wearing dreadlocks. It's gonna be awesome.
That's right.
Now, I would love to enjoy a red stripe right now, but as many of you know, I am Catholic, and during Lent, we are encouraged, not required, to give up something that you enjoy, or perhaps take on something that you don't normally do, or a combination of the two. And so in years past, and I've been doing the show now for many, many years, and many of you know that I've sometimes come up with unattainable goals, like giving up alcohol for more than 40 days. This time I decided I'm going to be a little bit smarter about it so that I can actually make it through the entire Lenten season without drinking beer. So if you follow me on Twitter, you may have noticed that I drank my last beer Tuesday night on Mardi Gras, or the Fat Tuesday, or the day before Ash Wednesday.
Pancake eating.
Oh yeah,
what
it's called all kinds of things around the world, but yeah, something about pancakes somewhere.
Shrove Tuesday
and
in the UK.
Shrove Tuesday.
There you go.
Oh,
okay.
Pancake Day.
Okay. So I decided I was going to give up. In fact, it was the title of one of our recent episodes, Pizza and Beer. So that is going to be my Lenten sacrifice this year. But I did not include wine and any other spirits. So, it gave me a chance to actually make it through the Lenten season, attaining my goal. So I'm doing some other things as well, but we don't need to go into that. So, and I think, was it Tillman in Berlin sent an email to the feedback saying that I believe that he is also giving up beer for Lent. So we can do it, Tillman. We can do it. Rick, are you giving up anything for Lent?
I'm giving a beer.
All right.
Yep.
There you
Wow.
No beer for 40 days. That's how it goes.
Okay, we can do it. We can do it together.
What
Yes,
are you
sir.
guys doing? Having cocktails or champagne instead? How's it work?
Yes, mass quantities of it.
That seems like it's defeating the purpose.
Well, okay. Well, I could
I'm
just not do
kidding. I'm
anything.
just kidding.
So this is what usually happens. I'll be fine for about a week, maybe a week and a half, sometimes even 2 weeks. But then I just break down, and the willpower is just not there anymore. And then I go, oh well,
Well, we're
maybe
gonna,
again.
We're going to hold you accountable this time around.
Okay.
Both you guys.
Well, Jeff Egg is suggesting that you should give up old Dot Pilot for Lent.
That is a good
I said,
suggestion.
That's not much of a thing to give up. After all, you know. I don't think it's pretty worth it, is
We
it?
can't give up the old guy.
No, we would never give up on the
You
old
wouldn't even
dot
miss me.
curmudgeon. I don't even know who you're talking about. Okay.
Ah, there you go.
Well, thank you, Lucas, again for your great feedback from Jamaica. And again, Wagwan. All right. This is from Alex.
But wait.
Hey.
But we didn't actually answer his question.
We didn't. My bad.
Captain Nick, so I'll go first because my answer is going to be short and sweet. My airline career started in 2004, 2005. So I didn't really get to cross paths with the Concorde at all. I did get to see it a couple of times when it came to Miami. When I was doing my internship at the airport for my AMP license, I got to see it a couple of times. There used to be an old engineer there. His name was Alan Sutcliffe. This guy had been with British Airways for many, many years, and he'd worked on all sorts of aircraft. And the first time I actually got a thorough walk through Concorde was with him. And when he retired from BA many years ago, he gave me all of his study material for the Concorde. So I have that here at home, a ton of books and manuals and schematics and stuff. So good bedtime reading there. So, but actually crossing paths with the Concorde, no, never. I'm sure Captain Nick's got some stories though.
Oh, usually them butting in when you're queued up for takeoff because they had so little fuel that they used to get a priority for line up and takeoff. So you'd be sitting there in a queue and Concorde 1 would come out with this snotty-nosed captain on the RT getting Concorde 1 for departure. And they go straight to the front of the queue and go roaring off down the runway with their asses on fire. So it's great. Yeah. But,
so you have fond memories of the Concorde.
Exactly. I do remember it. I went across one of the runways at JFK, I guess it was on 804. Concorde got airborne. Now, we were just at the holding point on the wigwags, about a third of the way down the runway, and Concorde went past us. And of course, it's only about 40 feet away when it's in the middle of the runway and you're waiting to cross the runway in full burner. And the noise was quite incredible. And the call bell from the girls at the back on the telephone going, "What the hell was that?" was remarkable. It was an incredibly noisy aeroplane. And the other thing was just coming across the pond. It's like you're coming over and you're sitting there, minding neutral. In fact, my first office was back in the loo, so I was on the flight deck on my own. And you could see this little contrail. Now, we were up in the mid-30s. And this contrail was way above us, so it had to be Concorde. And it was coming smack over the top of us at about 60,000 feet. And I listened, I thought, I wonder if we're going to hear it. Boom, boom. And you could hear the double boom, the double shockwave pass over your aircraft. And I went, wow, that was amazing. But I was listening for it. So when my FO came, I said, "Did you hear that?" And he went, "No. What? I was in the toilet."
What are you talking about?
So, it was a bit sad, but I heard it anyway.
That's amazing. I mean, you have to remember, the kind of speed that aircraft had to develop on the ground to be able to get airborne without any flaps and using a delta wing. So it had to, takeoff speed on that thing was, I understand, was very, very high, as was the V approach because of it didn't have any flaps. And I know for sure that Marcus from the Omega Tau podcast did a very interesting interview with a former Concorde pilot. And one of the interesting things that I gathered from that particular episode, you guys and gals should go back and listen to that, was the fact that the autopilot was temperature sensitive. And so there was a temperature probe at the very front of the aircraft. And if the ambient temperature was higher than standard, then the autopilot was not able to attain Mach 2 or get to Mach 2 or above Mach 2. And so when the temperature off the nose would get very, very close to the maximum temperature that the skin's supposed to get to, the auto throttle system would actually throttle the engines back to keep the aircraft flying at that temperature, not at the speed, but at the temperature that it's supposed to go to. So it's, amazing aircraft, the kind of technology that it had or that it used, just amazing. And that's one of the things that we talked about with the Hey Techies guys last week. And they asked me if you could do something or something aviation related, what would it be? And I told them that I thought that when Concorde stopped flying, we took a step back because we went from flying, twice the speed of sound to flying very, very slow aircraft again, albeit very, technologically advanced, but not as fast. So if there's anything that we could do, is I'd love to go back and fly as fast as that, at least.
Yeah, my only reference to Concorde was I saw it taking off and landing a couple of times at JFK before it was retired. And also a story much like Nick's, although I did not hear the double booms. Well, when I was back in the Air Force flying the 141, we were just chugging along at about 0.74 across the Atlantic Ocean. And from what I remember, when we did our position reports, we did them every line of longitude. Is that the way it still works when you did position reports?
Normally.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and for us, I seem to remember it was about a 45-minute period traveling at that rate between lines of longitude. And I looked up and I saw this contrail just like way up there. And I listened to Speedbird. I guess that was a call sign back then too, right? Wasn't it? Speedbird 1 or whatever?
Yeah. No, I think actually you Concorde 1.
Concorde. Okay.
Yeah, it might have been.
Wasn't it Speedbird Concorde 1?
I don't know. I know they got Concorde in there because they're a bunch of prima donnas, but.
So
sorry.
We want everyone to know what we're flying.
So,
you can tell I'm jealous, can't you?
I say again. Speedbird slightly. Concorde, the supersonic airplane.
Exactly.
Was every 15 minutes they were doing their reports, and so that just kind of sunk home or made an impression on me that they were doing it, they were crossing those lines of longitude 3 times as fast as we were. And the other thing I was going to ask Captain Nick, you mentioned the folks, the personnel flying these airplanes. Was this a pretty senior gig? Was this like the thing that all the senior pilots would bid for, or how did that work? That's right. Your company didn't.
No, we didn't. But in fact, it's quite amusing. There used to be a model of one, the entrance to Heathrow, and when the boss, the flamboyant boss of Acme Red, first got his first takeoff out of Heathrow, he pitched up early in the morning with all the news there. And they draped a beautifully made silk sock over the fin of this Concorde model, which made it look like an Acme Red aircraft because it fitted just beautifully, looked perfect. And the Concorde had a red stripe down the side, and he stood there with a big parrot on his shoulder, wearing a pirate uniform and a big sign saying Virgin Territory. Oh, I should have said Acme Red Territory, but
I can bleep that out.
That really upset BA, certainly did. Just thinking back, I remember when I was an air cadet, I sat on the side of the runway and watched one of the prototypes fly. So that was back in the sort of late 60s. So that was quite remarkable as well. It wasn't half dirty in those days.
I never saw Concorde fly, but the only time I've ever actually seen the aircraft was up at the Smithsonian. And it was really impressive how tiny the passenger windows were. I was kind of struck by that. I didn't realize that. So
even the size of the airplane.
Yeah, it's not very big.
Yeah.
That's what she said.
Yeah. That's where is that? That's right here.
That's what she said.
Yeah. And she's the one that thought of it. I didn't.
No,
I'm just not in tune. So thank you again, Lucas, for your great feedback and your question regarding the Concorde. Oh, Paul, do you have any experience at all with the with Concorde? No. Is Paul still here?
Sorry. I turned my mic down a little bit when I was typing. I remember my dad used to take us when I was a young boy to watch Concorde at London and Manchester. And we used to drive down, because I live in Newcastle, which is northeast England, And we used to drive down. We used to like spend a full day pretty much at the airport waiting for Concorde to arrive. And it's. I think that's probably one of the. Once you've seen it, you'll never ever forget it. You'll never forget the sound. You'll never forget what it looks like. The crowds of people that would specifically, they used to come outside, because I remember they used to have little outside waiting areas or galleries at a couple of airports, and it used to be full of people kind of watching this thing come and land or take off. And yeah, you'll never forget it. It was brilliant.
So Newcastle, is that the where the Newcastle beer is from?
Newcastle Brown Ale, yes.
Oh,
So they pull it straight out of the river. They don't have to do anything to it. They just put the
Come
bottle
on
in
now.
the river.
It tastes fine. You get over it. It's like you get immune.
It's an acquired taste.
You get over it.
It is, yeah. And this is the trick with a bottle of Nuki Brown. You get the bottle just opened, and you get your mate to hold it, and then you tap another glass or a bottle on the top, whack, and then watch what happens. And unless he's very quick, he's going to get covered in beer. It's a great fun trick.
That's what Paul does all the time, I'm sure.
If he's sensible, he'll steer clear of the stuff. Deadly.
All right, moving on. Alex sent a link to an article regarding the Air France retiring its last 747 after 40 years. I'll include a link to that in the show notes. He said, it's a sad, sad situation for the Queen of the Skies. As more and more airlines appear to be taking the same path. It is sad. What a great, airplane.
The other day, I was taxiing to runway 27 out of Miami to go. I forget where I was going, and just as I was taxiing to I think it's taxiway Quebec that leads you to runway 27, the last Air France 747 leaving Miami was taken off, and I thought to myself, oh man, this will never happen again. So very sad indeed to see that the Queen of the Skies go.
Yes, it is. And let's see, Nick Acosta down there in Miami sent us a link to a YouTube video with the company that's making a hover bike. So it's kind of like a drone that you can ride like a motorcycle. It's very, very cool. And I think they have some kind of a fundraising
Kickstarter
or something. Yeah, that they're trying to raise money for it. Which would be very cool. So you need to check out the link that we'll put in the show notes, the YouTube video of the hover bike. Thank you, Nick, for that. And
I took
Travis,
a look at that, and I was just a wee bit worried because, where in most drones, there's a fairly wide spread in between the four propellers. On this bike, they're sort of squeezed in so that the front pair overlap and the back pair overlap. I was thinking the stability, and considering on a kind of motorcycle you bank it a lot, as you would have to this, I guess. I was just wondering how much you would have to bank it before it turns upside down. So from that point of view, I was going, I don't think I'm going to get one of those. Thank you very much.
That's not on your list of things to do. Your bucket list?
Your Christmas wish list?
No, I have quite a long list. But
I mean, a motorcycle is dangerous enough as it is, but a hover bike? I don't know. We'll see what comes of that. Travis sent us a great question and some audio feedback. Take it away, Travis.
Hello, Captain Jeff, Miami Rick, Dr. Steph, and now old Doc Pilot. I was very impressed with the 200 episode, and I don't think you guys exactly understand how much of an impact you make on people's lives and allow us to hear about your passion flying. It's very nice to be in a career where you're passionate. I do have one quick question, though. When you fly a commercial flight, you notice that the air hostess or cabin stewards are always walking around while the plane is being pushed back and then taxiing towards the end of the runway. They're doing their safety demonstration and checking that all cabin is stowed and all the rest before they take their seats and lock themselves into their seats with their seatbelts. But then when you land, the entire way back to the gate, the cabin stewards do not leave their seats. I'm assuming a plane has almost as much chance of stopping when it is taxiing to the runway than it is when it's taxiing from the runway. Yet the air hostess remains seated for that entire journey back to the gate. If you could give me any insight on why this is so, I'd much appreciate it. And keep up the good work, as I enjoy hearing the show every week.
Please remain seated with your seatbelt securely fastened anytime the seatbelt light is on.
Thanks for your feedback. And who wants to tackle this one? You know, I've actually thought the same thing. Why is it that it's okay for them to be up and running around on the way out and before takeoff, but when we land, they are in their seats until we arrive at the gate?
Well, that's
any
a
thoughts on
easy
that?
one, Jeff. They before takeoff, they have to perform their safety demos and then secure the aircraft. So they're going around checking that, at the end of the safety demo, that everyone's got their seatbelts tied up properly, attached properly, whatever. And then finally they take the seats. For landing, of course, they've done that at 10,000 feet or 20,000 feet, depending on when you put the belts on. So there's no more securing to be done, no more checks to be done. And on the ground, they merely have to sit there and glare at you if you get up early and try and get your briefcase out of the overhead locker.
That's
exactly, because part of our takeoff, well, at least back in my passenger days, because nowadays, boxers don't get up around the cabin. But back in the passenger days, no, the pigs do.
Got big problems.
That's a big problem there. But no, but I mean, part of the before takeoff checklist is the cabin has to be secure for takeoff, and part of that part of the cabin being secure for takeoff implies that the flight attendants have done that check down the aisles to make sure that everybody's strapped in and the aisles are clear in case of an evacuation is required and all that. And so, as Captain Nick said, after you land, that is no longer a concern because all those checks have been done at 10,000 feet, and they just sit there because there's really nothing else to do.
Yeah, but I guess the spirit of the question is, maybe shouldn't that be done before you start taxiing anywhere, just for safety purposes for the flight attendants themselves?
We don't care about them. If they get injured, that's tough. I'm sorry.
Well, I wanted to make sure I understand.
Well, I mean, sometimes
they get paid to walk around and get injured. I'm only joking. Lovely cabin staff. No, but seriously, they're pretty good at keeping their feet. When I do my brakes check, I once got one come tumbling into the flight deck when I did a slightly aggressive brake check, but. No, they're pretty good.
And when you fly Boeings, you don't have to do brake checks because the brakes always work. So that's not something we need to. That's not something we need to. That's not something we need to contend with. And it's really funny you mentioned that because back on the 7.6, we had a guy come from the 320 to the 7.6, and it was his first couple of flights as a 7.6 captain. And just to mess with him, I'd go, just before he started taxiing, I'd go brake check. And he'd actually do the brake check like he was still in an Airbus, That was kind of funny to see. It was like, there's no brake check here at Boeing.
Responses to Boeing brake failure on Google, I might add.
Yeah.
This is fun.
You're just... Well, the bottom line is that Boeing's, we don't need brake checks. They work all the time.
Is really that's a thing? You have to check your brakes on the.
Oh yeah, bus? They do brake checks, and then the response is pressure 0 or something like that. And
the reason we do it is to make sure that the hydraulics changeover has occurred between the blue system and the green system. So when you fire up the motors, that hydraulic changeover has to occur, and then you're actually not checking the brakes. What you're doing is you're actually checking that you get a little reading on the brake pressure gauge to indicate that, or you don't get a little reading, on the brake pressure gauge, which indicates the brakes are now on the green system, correctly on the green system. But it's rather nice. I've always done it in the Air Force. Didn't you do it in the Air Force, Jeff? We always did brake checks on every type I've ever done. You overconfident Boeing blokes. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't remember brake checks, but perhaps I do.
I do brake checks.
Yeah.
It's on our checklist.
Well, Steph, I knew I.
Well, to be fair, on and speaking talking seriously now, on the aircraft that I've flown, the braking system is always on the right hydraulic system, and anytime the right engine is on, that system is going. So that really. There really is no transfer of braking system between, when the engines are off and when the engines are on. Basically, the brakes are always on as long as that right hydraulic system is pressurized.
Oh, you mean have like left and right and not colors?
No, we keep it simple. We don't have like a pink hydraulic system or a polka dot.
What's your favorite? Talking about flight attendants up, and while we were taxiing out for takeoff, I had one instance where I got a little bit of got some people upset with me because we were asked at the last moment to turn right on another taxiway, and I judged that I could do this pretty smoothly, but apparently it was a little bit more than they could handle back in the back, and I think I threw one or two of them against some passengers.
Well, they probably didn't have those Zimmer frames at the ready, Jeff.
I was very upset. I heard a big noise. I'm thinking, uh-oh, that did not sound good.
Really? Did you have like car chase music playing in your head?
Yeah.
I did.
Like the banjo going?
I try to be really smooth when I'm taxiing, but in this case, I overestimated their ability to stay on their feet. And,
actually, it is a serious problem on the Airbus. The 340 being, until the 380 came along, the longest airliner ever built. Back in the rear galley, you go around a corner too fast, that tail swings at a hell of a rate, and it can push them off their feet if you're not careful. So we try and go around corners nice and easy.
Yeah.
You know how we fixed that over at we fixed that over in the Boeings by having the main landing gear steer as well. It's a little thing we do.
In the very back, like a ladder truck.
There's an extra bit of weight to stick on. Yeah.
But
so much.
Anytime the nose landing gear goes past 13 degrees, the main landing gear is going to steer opposite to help you go around those corners a little easier. So it's good stuff.
Yeah, I can understand how you need help going around corners. That makes sense.
Stephen in the chat room says, has the last C-47 commercial flown? My first commercial flight was an American Airlines DC-3. I don't know if you consider Buffalo Airlines to be, they're commercial flights. I think they have a somewhat of a schedule up there in Alaska. I think they're still.
Last I heard, their AOC had been denied because they had a couple of incidents or accidents in the last couple of months. So as far as I know, they're still grounded. But they do fly C-47s, and then they have a couple of C-46 Commandos and DC-4s and stuff like that. But I don't think they're flying as of right now.
Oh, too bad.
Yeah.
And he also asks, has anyone ever piloted a Caravelle?
Oh, wow.
Captain Nick would be the one that I would say had a chance.
That French airplane? No, a bit before my time, old chap. A bit before my time.
Yeah, I think so too.
We're thinking VC-10 era here and before. So, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Travis, for the great question about cabin service staff. Thanks for being there in the community, and look forward to hearing from you again in the future. Speaking of future, Don Sebastian, one of our Coffee Fund contributors since the last show, says, hi, after you listen to this podcast, see if you agree. This is where you will be in 10 years. And he refers to an Aviation Week podcast, Check 6, I think they call it. And we'll put that link in the show notes. He said, the good news, you might not ever have to retire because of your age or health. Now, I'm trying to remember. It's been a while since I looked at or listened to this podcast. But do you guys remember exactly what this was about? Was it about the fact that we were not going to have pilots in airplanes anymore, or people flying them from their homes or something? I don't know.
Something like it had to do with something like that. But we got this piece of feedback a couple of weeks ago, and I did download this podcast when I got this piece of feedback, and it's really interesting stuff. Anything by Aviation Week and Space Technology is great stuff. They keep it around half an hour to 45 minutes, and I think the one that he's talking about has to do with what you're talking about, the fact that everything's going to be automated and this and that. But I don't see that happening.
Speaking of retiring and and Mad Dogs. I mean, I'm trying to find that feedback that we were looking at. Steph and I were looking at
I thought
before.
you merged it with the
I
other
did.
ones.
I just don't know where it went.
Oh
well.
There it is. Keep going.
Keep right going. There. Mad Dog
there
retirement. Okay. Let's see. This is from Brett Seymour, and he says that it looks like the Air Force has chosen Boeing to mod the 747-8 into the next generation Air Force One. I wonder how the paint scheme will look on the new plane. I happen to like the light blue and chrome scheme. I think this was the obvious choice, as the public doesn't like the idea of an Airbus Air Force One, although I think Northrop Grumman could be the integrator, and they could do it in the Airbus facility down in Mobile. But I don't think you can argue about Boeing being chosen. What do Rick and the old pilot think about this? Well, we're not going to ask them. Would the president be better off in a Boeing or an Airbus? Well, I think, let's see. I think Rick would say Boeing, and I think that Captain would say Airbus.
If he wants to get there, it has to be a Boeing. So,
well, I don't think for that reason. I think he ought to just have Boeing anyway, because, I mean, I would hate to think of all the heart attacks and all the complaints we get from the American public if their president started riding around in an Airbus. So, no, you guys stick to Boeing. I'm sure you can find one that works.
Just one. That's all we need.
Yeah, I don't think that was actually the one that I combined together.
Well,
but,
put that one in because the question's at the bottom of the.
Good question, though. I do like that. Yeah.
Good stuff.
Well, anyway, he goes on. A short question for me. With all of the talk about Acme retiring the venerable Mad Dogs, well, let me stop right there. I mean, several of you, and at some point, I hope to find the other pieces of feedback. There was somebody did a video about kind of like a commemoration or I don't know, some kind of a compilation of scenes inside the Mad Dog.
Someone was feeling nostalgic for the
Mad nostalgia, and it was very funny actually. And I'll if I can find the link to the video, it's pretty cool because well, you know what, I'm hoping to play it on this show, but it has the sound of the pitch trim actuator. Actually, the horn of the pitch trim actuator, because we don't have anything moving or any other indication that the pitch trim is actually in motion on the Mad Dog. So it makes this really, really obnoxious sound, which actually now I've been flying the airplane for so long, I don't even notice it hardly anymore, unless it's just going on and on and on for a while. And that's the whole point. You might have a runaway pitch trim actuator, but anyway, it's kind of a funny video where they reference another very funny movie and funny sounds, but that led to the impression from at least 3 or 4 of you or more that my airline is retiring the Mad Dog, and it is not. It is another airline that starts with an A that is retiring their Mad Dogs. So this question and all the questions that are received about it really don't apply at this time. But I'm sure sometime in the future we will be retiring the airplane. It can't live forever. But his question is, how does Acme shift the current seniority to other aircraft? I can't imagine that guys like yourself that are near the top of the seniority rank on the Mad Dog would like to be a first officer on another type. Is there a transfer mechanism built into the pilot's contract for aircraft retirement? A conversion process that would convert seniority to another type? What would be your choice of the Acme fleet without regard to seniority? So, Brett, the answer to that is everything is based on seniority, at least at my airline. And what happens is when the fleet is about to be retired, they'll do it in a sequence so that they don't just one day decide, okay, we're just not going to fly this airplane, from this point on. They'll start getting rid of airplanes over time. And at the same time, they'll also start decreasing the staffing for each of the crew positions on that airplane as well. And before all that starts happening, we get something called, at my airline, an advance. Now I can't think of it. What is it called? An advance?
I know you've mentioned it before.
Gosh darn it, I can't believe I can't think of that. Anyway, it's a process that we go through that basically says we have vacancies in certain positions on certain airplanes, and we have surpluses, which means that if you're flying the Mad Dog and they're retiring it, they would announce an entitlement, advance entitlement. That's what they call it. They will announce that at this point, we're only going to need this many people, this many captains, this many first officers. And so if you're kind of in the junior end of the spectrum on this airplane, you might want to review your choices for displacement. And what that means is that you're going to get bumped off that airplane, and you better put your choices in now for what kind of airplane you'd like to fly, what position on that airplane, and what base you want to fly it out of, etc. And based on your seniority, you'll be awarded that airplane, and you'll go to training for that new airplane, etc. So there is definitely a system in place for this kind of eventuality, and it's just not like they just transfer everybody off that airplane and move them over to another airplane, or you have to start as a first officer. In fact, the airplane that I fly now, I never flew as a first officer. I came over from flying the 727, and when I got displaced from the 727, the only thing that I could fly captain on at the Atlanta base was the Mad Dog. And so that's what I put in my preference, and that's what I was awarded. And then after a certain amount of time, they gave me a training date, and I went to training and got qualified, got the type rating on the MD-88. So that's the way the system works. Is that the way it works for your airline, Nick?
I don't know, Mick. I was just distracted by a comment that says, Mad Dogs will retire when mines run out of coal.
That is actually quite true.
Sorry. Switching fleets and seniority. We keep a completely company-based seniority system when it comes to that sort of thing. So it doesn't matter which fleet you're on. You have the same seniority number. Of course, within that fleet, you'll have to take a pecking order, but it will be based on your original seniority order. So, you don't lose anything really from switching fleets. Doesn't make a difference.
And the other thing to consider is that, as you say, Nick, we have a system seniority, and then we have an individual category for that airplane at that base seniority. So basically relative seniority. And that's what matters when it comes to the schedules that I fly each month, the vacation that I have, et cetera. But the system seniority is what determines where I go in the case of being displaced, or if we're advancing to like something bigger or something better. But the other thing I was going to mention, if for some reason they have a bunch of people being displaced from an airplane and they cannot push me, let's say there was a bigger airplane and they decided that everybody flying this airplane now, you have to go fly something else. And somebody goes, well, you know what, I'd like to fly that Mad Dog. And then the question comes up, well, then what happens to me who was already flying the Mad Dog? Will I get bumped off and then have to go to something else? And that's not the way it works. My position is held there. So it's only if the positions are available in another airplane will they do that. So I hope that makes sense. It's kind of complicated sometimes, but any other things?
There's nothing more complicated in aviation than seniority and contract negotiations. Flying the aircraft is so easy. It's like when you get into the nitty gritty of figuring out where each pilot goes in relationship to another, and when it comes time to negotiate the contract, that's when it gets tricky because the other stuff is relatively easy.
And as far as what I would like to do, if for some reason right now, they said next week we're getting rid of all the Mad Dogs, what would I like to fly? The category that I would prefer to fly next, and when I have a decent seniority on it, I'll move to it. Hopefully they'll still be flying the 767s and the 757s. And at Acme, they have combined the international and domestic category all into one huge category we call the 76ER. And that includes operations of the international version of the 767 flying all over the world, Europe, Asia, South America, Africa, and probably other places that I haven't thought of. And domestically, we have models of airplanes, 767s and 757s that fly the domestic routes. And that would be probably what I'd want to do. And if I have the seniority to do that, and I could fly relatively decent domestic trips, that's what I envision that I'll do next. So that's
and it's so funny because I can just see you, like when you start flying that 7576, you're gonna be walking around with a grin from ear to ear. You're gonna be saying, "Man, I wish I'd done this sooner." I know it's seniority based for you and all that stuff, but you are gonna love the 7.5 and the 7.6. How simple they are, how overpowered they are, how easy they are to fly, how stable they are. It's just a great hand flying aircraft. You're gonna love it.
I look forward to it. I've ridden in the cockpit several times, jump seat, but I've not been at the controls. So I look forward to doing that at some point. So, okay, well, let's see. I'm all lost now in our feedback pile. So I'm just going to pick one at random. And it was something that we received quite recently. And I believe this person may actually be in our chat room at this moment. So let's take a listen.
Hi everyone, it's Myla here. I have a little feedback for you that I'd like to give you, and I really hope you will like it. So a few months back, I'd never heard of the Airline Pilot Guy show before. I had no idea there were aviation podcasts out there at all. And to be honest, I was in a pretty bad place. Things really needed to change. So with newfound enthusiasm, I signed up on Twitter and WordPress, and I started randomly following pilots. And one thing led to another, and before I knew it, I was listening to the show. And I really have to say, I absolutely love it. So here's a little feedback for each of you, and I'd like to start off with Captain Nick. I love your great sense of humor, and as a non-native speaker, sometimes it takes me a moment to get the joke or for the penny to drop, but when I do, I really can't help but laugh, even if it's sometimes like a few days later. So please give your puppies a very big hug from me. And then Dr. Steph, I admire you so much. As a female pilot and a doctor, you have so much knowledge and experience, and I think you're a very valuable asset to the show. So don't ever leave. Miami Rick, I think your knowledge is astounding. Bring out the crickets any day. I love listening to everything you have to say, and your enthusiasm is infectious. And last but certainly not least, Captain Jeff, I admire what you've done here so much. Not only have you shown the dedication to make over 200 episodes, investing your time every single week, you've also built an amazingly loving and caring community. So thank you. I hope to meet you all one day and give you each a great big hug. And thank you for getting me out of a bad place and into this amazing community. And I've made so many wonderful friends, and I've met so many amazing, inspiring people. I really feel lucky to be part of it. I hope you are in for a wonderful Valentine's weekend, and I really hope that you all feel loved. So take care. Bye.
Myla, so awesome to hear from you. Thank you. It's so great to hear everybody's voice. I've seen Myla around in the chat room and, sending through, Twitter and all that kind of stuff. But to actually hear your voice is so nice. And thank you for so many nice things that you said. And I can't say enough how true everything you said there was, except for what you said about Captain Nick. And so...
You're so mean, man. Don't listen to me. Great feedback. Thanks very much.
Yeah, continue to send us feedback and keep listening, and you're just a great part of our community. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Myla. Amazing feedback. Thank you so much.
Yeah, what everyone else said, thanks. That was great. Keep sending stuff on Twitter too. It's awesome.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. Let's continue with some more feedback, some more audio feedback, maybe. Wow, we have so much feedback. It's just overwhelming. I had to scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll up and down. Hey, by the way, anybody else on the crew, if you see something in that feedback stack that you think that we should play, please holler and we'll do it. Let's just start with or continue with audio feedback from Fabian.
Hi everyone at Airline Pilot Guy. Since I'm new to the show, I thought I would introduce myself before I give some feedback. My name is Fabian and I'm 22 years old and I'm from Germany. I've been what we now call an Air Geek since I was 11. For me, it started out with weekend trips to the local airports, going spotting. You may know the airports Düsseldorf and Cologne. Düsseldorf is the third largest German airport with regular Delta and American flights to the US. Cologne is a major cargo hub for UPS and FedEx. Ever since I wanted to become a pilot. Today I study aerospace engineering. I'm almost done with my bachelor's degree. Flight school will start for me in the beginning of March, depending my medical exam this coming Wednesday, January 20th. During my time in high school, I never had the time to start flying gliders because I was a competitive swimmer. But when college started, I wanted to fly. So I joined a glider club at my college. Within the last 2 years, I unfortunately did not get too far. But it's been much fun and I learned a lot. Last summer, I got to fly my first solo in a glider. So much about me for now. Now to my feedback. I found APG after having followed Rick for quite some time on Twitter, and I finally had the time to listen in. I listened to a few of the newer episodes. They are great. Thanks for all this effort and your shows. First, I wanted to talk about episode 201. Captain Nick talked about the video of the Swiss A340 emergency. I myself have not seen the video, but in Germany there's a company called Pilots ITV, and they produce a few episodes a year about the job of pilots. They set up cameras facing each pilot. Then they have cameras viewing over the shoulder of each pilot, and there's another guy with a camera in a cockpit. The first episode they produced was back in 2007 when there were no action cameras, not to name a brand. It was an LTU special flight, which LTU now, of course, belongs to Air Berlin. It was a special flight to the North Pole. Later, they produced short and long-haul flights with Lufthansa, Swiss, Condor, Austrian, and Aerologic, and many more. They usually bring out these documentaries as DVDs, but a few weeks back, a German non-aviation magazine had one of their documentaries online free to watch. I will check if it's still online, and and if I find a link, I will send it with this feedback. It was a Aerologic 777 rotation out of Leipzig to Bologna, Italy, and then on to Hong Kong. They showed a bit of the layover and then the return leg to Leipzig. In the documentary, you can hear the German and English mix Nick talked about quite well, with checklists and briefings done in English, but other stuff in German. Even talking to another Aerologic flight over the radio on a not used frequency. Anyways, I thought you might be interested in knowing about these documentaries. Second, I wanted to talk about what you said regarding low-level flying to the guy who wanted to set up his own airfield. I have 3 examples of close encounters with gliders even in uncontrolled or in controlled airspace echo. The one our glider club, we go on summer camp for 1 week to go somewhere and fly every day to get some practice. And the 1 year we were out and there was a tornado, the German Air Force tornado, busting low over the field while there was a winch launch going on, and the tornado was below 400 meters or to 1,200 feet. And he just missed the rope of the winch launch, and well, it was dangerous, and he should have known better that it's summertime and the glider club's out, and the glider club is marked on the map, so he should have known better. Another thing, Dutch flight instructor of our club told us when he did his first 50-kilometer cross-country flight, which is mandatory to get your glider's license. He saw 4 Dutch F4 coming straight at him, and they couldn't see him because he was flying straight towards them, and so he decided, the only chance they're gonna see me if I do a 25-degree bank. He did that, and the fighters they saw him and moved out of the way in various directions. So Yes, I think you have to be careful flying, even especially with military aircraft around. But also there was a German BFU report. BFU is like the American NTSB. There was a near miss in an airfield called Frankfurt-Hahn. It's a Ryanair airfield, which is not Frankfurt International Airport, but next to the airport there are glider areas, designed glider areas, and right outside the Delta airspace of the airport is Airspace Echo. So there was a Ryanair 737 clear to land, but still in Airspace Echo, and there was a glider nearby. And I'm not sure if the glider pilot saw the 737 or the 737 pilot the glider pilot, but the other one didn't see. When one of those pilots saw the other one and the other one didn't. And well, it could have been the 737 pilot was clear to land, but was still in Airspace Echo. And I think if you're at a smaller airfield and, well, like the guy who wanted to set up his own airfield, even if you're in Airspace Echo or Airspace Golf, you have to pay attention. And even if you're the smallest aircraft and the one who does it's the right of way, you have to pay attention to bigger aircraft because they may not, even if they see you, they may not be able to change direction to avoid collision. So keep your eyes out there, and you may be even too small to see them. Well, and the third one I wanted to talk about, Nick talked about controllers talking to aircraft on other frequencies. When we visited Eurocontrol in Maastricht in the Netherlands on a college field trip, one of the controllers there told us when the controller is in charge of multiple frequencies, they mirror the other frequencies to all frequencies. So everybody hears what the controller is hearing. So I think, I don't know if other control centers handle it the same way, but I think it's a good way. So you know what's going on, you know who the controller is talking to, and you know the controller is listening to somebody else, and well, you don't talk at the same time like somebody else is talking to the controller. Eurocontrol does a lot of upper airspace air control in Europe, especially over Germany and Belgium and the Netherlands. Well, I got two other points regarding episode 197. First, you talked about the Asia crash and pilot's ability to react in unknown situations. Rick talked about taking an extra 300. I think if you take a glider, you will have the opportunity to test lots of unfamiliar situations like spins and stalls. Also, aerobatics in a glider are quite impressive and lots of fun to do. I got the opportunity last summer, flying loops and upside down. Well, it's a fun experience, and you get, I think, probably the same amount of experience you get out of flying an extra, and you can do the same stuff like spins and stalls, but it's way cheaper. So you might consider trying that. And last, I wanted to add, you talked about Chris Hadfield, the Canadian astronaut, in episode 197, sorry. While up on the ISS, he did tons of videos explaining stuff on the ISS. Also, he recorded the David Bowie's Space Oddity on the ISS. Go to YouTube, check it out. It's awesome. He has pictures, he's a video, and he's playing the guitar. It's awesome. Well, thanks for the great show. I really enjoyed and tried to turn in tailwinds and blue skies from Germany. Bye.
Fabian, thanks for the feedback, and I think you get some honorary fickets, we're going to call it. There we go.
I think I've met my match.
In all the best ways possible.
And he is in the chat room, by the way, if you're wondering. Fabian, thanks so much. I'm sorry it took so long for us to get to your feedback, your audio feedback, but thanks for taking the time to send it in. And you addressed so many darn things. I'm going to try to remember all of them. And if we forget, please send us a message via the chat to remind us. But I think the first thing you talked about was the Pilot's Eye TV. And he said he sent in a follow-up email. I just checked. It's not online anymore, but it's on YouTube. And there are some trailers there. So we'll put that link in the show notes. And basically it's youtube.com/Pilot's Eye, PILOTSEYE. And you can check out some of the work that they do there. They do amazing work on those productions. And let's see, help me, folks, with.
He's talking about the Swiss flight first.
Oh yeah, I think somebody.
So there was an issue.
I didn't know
with,
that Captain Nick, when he was flying the F4, was trying to take out gliders.
Neither did I, probably.
Yes, Steph, what were you saying?
Oh no, wasn't the first thing you brought up again that Swiss flight video?
Yeah, that's why he was talking to the Pilot's Eye TV.
Right.
Okay.
He was suggesting that we might improve our flying skills by doing something inexpensive, like doing aerobatics and gliders. And I have to agree. I can't think of anything nicer than my company paying for me to go gliding every weekend or so. Unfortunately, I don't think that would be realistic, much as I'd love to do it.
Yeah, it's too bad.
Yeah, airlines don't like
Sounds
spending money.
much too much like having fun.
Well, we have some, and I'm sure. Was there anything else that we missed there? I mean, you talked a lot of about a lot of things there. Let's see. We'll wait for him to say, "Well, you forgot the most important thing." But if you do, we'll see it in the chat room comments. But for now, we have some breaking news, and we're going to take it to our special guest host, Paul Whittle. I think he has some news for us. I was reading some of the posts that he was putting in the chat room regarding the number of downloads already, and we just released the iOS app.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting it either, so it's come with a bit of a surprise, which is really, really good. There is a couple of issues which kind of people have got in touch with us tonight about, especially the smaller Android devices. They are having trouble kind of saving any updates to their profile. If you do edit your profile, hit the top right-hand corner, and there is a save button there, but the problem is until the next update, the save button's white, so it kind of blends in with the logo, so you don't see it, but that'll be corrected on the next one. 1,808 downloads so far tonight, just since we've launched the iOS version. So that's pretty incredible.
Wow, that's
and
amazing.
over 9,000 page views throughout tonight as well. So a lot of it's down to the community liking and sharing on Facebook and things, and it's got a lot more people interacting, which is it's numbers don't lie. So that's really incredible, and thank you very much.
Yeah, is it possible now for us to take it down and then put it back up and charge everybody like $50?
Just retire, drink Newcastle Brown Ale, retire, sit back, pick it up.
No, we didn't want to charge anything for it because this is a benefit of being part of our APG community. We don't charge for the podcast, and we do really appreciate those who on their own decide, you know what, I like this show so much, I don't want it to ever go away, so I'm going to go ahead and contribute to the coffee fund, and that's the way you can, again, only if you can afford to do so, because we'd rather you take your money and spend it on flying lessons, on food, on shelter, your girlfriend/wife, or both, or spouse. I shouldn't be so sexist. And
your significant other.
Yeah, your significant other.
Your life partner.
But, if you have, if you have some, extra cash laying around, in the pockets or whatever, and you want to help out the show and keep this thing going forever and ever, then please do consider the coffee fund. But for now, the podcasts are still free, or forever it will be free, and the podcast, the mobile apps as well. We don't have any intention of ever charging for them.
And seriously, thank you guys so much, because it really is the community that makes this. And thanks again to Paul for putting all that together. It's really awesome.
It is.
This man is a hero.
Absolutely.
It is. Billy,
it's great seeing it.
Anything else, Paul, you wanted to add?
Yeah, no, I keep refreshing the screen and the numbers keep on going up. So it's really, really good. Again, any problems or issues, just let us know. If you like it, share it, and it's getting the word out there really, really well. So brilliant.
Right. Perfect. Tim Van Ram. We haven't heard from Tim in a while. Of course, he sent this in quite some time ago. A very cool picture of somebody's 3-car garage and the garage doors. And they have very cleverly made the doors into basically murals with enlarged photos of. I just noticed this.
Yeah. What type of airplane is that?
It's
I know.
I just noticed that
I didn't know Southwest operated 4-engine 737s.
It's a unusual variety.
Yeah,
apparently
very, very unusual.
It looks like a 737-1 million.
Yeah,
parked in the middle of this 3-car garage. Looks like a huge hangar, but we'll put
the 737 Max, isn't that?
Exactly.
That's right.
I wonder if this photo is copyrighted, because it would be kind of cool to make that our episode graphic. But if not, I'll include it in the show notes so you can take a look at it. And so thank you, Tim, for that. And let's see, just scrolling through here. You want to hear some, how are you doing with the time, Rick? You have a few more minutes still?
I have 7 minutes.
Okay. Well, let's listen to some audio feedback from Mechanic Bob. What do you think?
Cool.
Hello, Captain Jeff and crew. Mechanic Bob here. As a newish IFR pilot, all of the talk lately about holding and expect further clearance times got me thinking. If ATC asks you to hold, and they give you an expect further clearance time that will put you below your minimum legal fuel reserves, wouldn't it be wise to tell them you're unable to hold for that period of time? Rather than accepting a hold for 1 hour and hoping that ATC will clear you past the hold sooner than that, like they usually do, maybe it would be better to advise them, unable to hold for 1 hour, we can hold for 45 minutes until we're minimum fuel. One of the reasons that ATC gives you an expect further clearance times is in case of lost radio communications. I know in a modern aircraft, a total loss of communications is very unlikely. Think how you would feel, though, if you lost your comms and now you not only had one emergency because of failed radios, but you had a second emergency because you have to sit in that hold until you're 15 minutes into your fuel reserves. Just food for thought. Tailwinds.
Thanks, Mechanic Bob, regarding holding. And when I heard you say why not just say we only have 45 minutes of hold, I can just hear the comeback from the air traffic controller and saying, well, it was nice of you hanging out with us for 45 minutes. You got to go. See ya.
Yep. In fact, it happened at Heathrow the other day with someone saying, I can't hold. I need to go. Actually, he said, we've got someone who's not feeling very well. We'd like medics to meet us, and any chance we can get a quick approach. To which the controller said, are you declaring an emergency? And that's what air traffic would say to us. If we say, getting a bit short of fuel, are you declaring an emergency? Because if you do, then you'll get priority. If you don't, well, join the queue.
Exactly right. And there's two terms here. Like one of them, as Captain Nick said, is emergency. So once you declare an emergency, then you get priority from that controller and you get to shoot the approach. But you also get to fill out all the paperwork that goes along with that emergency and have to do all the explaining with that has to go with that emergency. There's another word combination that we use to convey a certain sense of urgency to ATC, but not quite declare an emergency. And those words are minimum fuel. It's basically minimum fuel. It means that you are getting to the point where fuel might be a concern. And if you do get held up, you might, that situation might turn into an emergency. So basically what minimum fuel means is that you can't accept any more delay, because if you do, then you might find yourself in an emergency type situation. But as Captain Nick said, if you get to a point where, and in my aircraft, that's 4 tons or 4,000 kilos of fuel or 8,000 pounds of fuel, if you get to that point, then you do declare an emergency. And why is it 4 tons for us? It's 4 tons for us because at 4 tons, you start getting advisories of your fuel pumps starting to not receive the amount of fuel required for them to for that fuel to go to the engines. Even though these engines are gravity fed, the second you get a fuel pump light on because of low fuel number or low fuel quantity in your tanks, then that's when you're declared an emergency. And there's a lot of paperwork along that stuff. So,
what do you think, Nick?
I don't, Jeff.
Okay, I don't either. We're trying to find some feedback. We wanted to talk about something before Rick had to leave us, which is like in just minutes. But just quickly, Rick, this was sent in by, well, who was it? I don't know. Here, go to the info up here. And Jeff Dangle sent this in. He says, now that the Zika virus is starting to spread, I'm wondering if Miami Rick, his airline, or both are taking precautions considering he travels to the regions that are having some issues. I'm not sure if he's married, has children, or is planning to, but he certainly is the typical age where people would have children, and it is a concern for men as well as women. So I wonder what his take is on this current problem. Dr. Steph should be interesting, or would be interesting to hear what she says as well. So go ahead, Rick, take it away.
Okay, so as far as like on my end, before Dr. Steph gets into the medical aspect of it, just basically, just what I do whenever I go to Brazil, which is the area where this is happening, the bulk of this stuff is happening. We have had I have received some like just a couple of emails from the company, telling us what to do, what kind of steps to follow, obviously wear long sleeve clothing and DEET or mosquito repellent, and basically stay indoors if you can and stuff. So I guess as far as dealing with it when you're down there, I guess just do what anybody else would do. I'm not somebody that, goes, trekking out in the jungle or anything. And obviously now with this thing going on, I'm going to be more careful. But it's interesting because I feel like every couple of years there's some kind of epidemic or some kind of situation or instance where you have to be careful. I remember not too long ago, it was, I think it was avian flu or bird flu or something, and before that it was something else. And every once in a while, it's something like this happens. But at the end of the day, it's all about common sense, just being careful and protecting yourself and stuff like that. So that's basically how I'm dealing with it, like how everybody else would. Just be careful.
Yeah, just a quick add in there. I've just come back from the second worst country in the world for malaria, and malaria is probably still the biggest killer present in the entire planet. So our company give us antimalarials, but you'd be amazed at the number of people who can't be bothered to get them and can't be bothered to take them. It really distresses me. You go into a country where this sort of thing is a problem, you cover yourself as best you can. You take the right drugs and I don't know, what's that? And you try and avoid contact with mosquitoes or rickets or whatever.
I just wanted to address this quickly because I don't think we've really talked about it yet. And I know it's, lots of stuff in the news about it and lots of information from the CDC coming out about it. But basically, so it's a primarily mosquito-borne illness. So the particular mosquito they're saying that the virus itself will spread throughout the Americas, essentially, some into the southern U.S. just because of the location of where that mosquito lives and breeds and all of that. I think there was some information that perhaps it's also potentially a sexually transmitted disease as well. So that's just also something to keep in mind. It's probably something that we're looking at that's going to be, an academic or an epidemic for the time being, and then you'll move on to something else, like Rick said. But for the meantime, it mostly applies to women of childbearing age who are pregnant or planning to become pregnant, because the danger with it is not so much the virus. The virus itself really produces mild, flu-like symptoms. And sorry, that's us. The hotel is...
I think the hotel's on fire.
No, the hotel, that was a fire truck, but the hotel is very close to a hospital, so we keep hearing sirens and ambulances and things.
It's a Zika virus.
It is a Zika virus.
Zika virus alert. Warning. Sorry.
But the main concern with the virus is transmission to an unborn child or a fetus, because what they're discovering with this particular virus, is that it causes birth defects, mainly in the form of microcephaly, which is small or underdeveloped cranial features, head, brain, all of that important stuff. And definitely that's not something that we want to have going on and continue. So the real problem is for those women who are planning to become pregnant, could become pregnant, to take the most precautions there. So I just wanted to address that just a little bit. I don't think there is any way to stop the particular spread of this virus because it is mosquito borne, other than taking the precautions like Rick said, wear long clothes, use DEET, if you're in that age bracket, particularly women, maybe avoid that travel. I'm not sure. I think I saw something too about the UK, and Nick and Paul can jump in here if you've heard this, where they were going to start spraying pesticides on planes that were coming back from Brazil or South America. Did you hear anything like that?
Well, we're already doing that. You're
already doing that now?
We've been doing that for a while, and there's certain countries, when you fly into certain countries, you need to spray these kinds of chemicals to kill off I guess unwanted bugs or whatever that you might be carrying along. And after you're done with that, when you hand in the general declaration to the customs guy, there's going to be a seal on there, put on there by the guy or person or gal who sprayed the aircraft, and then that's got to be signed by one of the crew members. And that is what lets customs know that step was actually taken care of. So we were already doing that, and we've been doing that for a long time. Yep.
We used to do that a lot when I flew the 141 in the Air Force. From certain countries, we'd come in and they'd spray it with insecticide as a routine thing.
Well, we did it on my aircraft coming home from Lagos today. In fact, of course, the engineers always warn us when they're doing the cargo holds because it sets off the smoke alarms.
Oh, yeah. That's not good.
No, well, it gives you a bit of a wake-up call when you're quietly sipping your tea and typing in the box and all the fire warnings go off.
Yeah, that gets your attention. Well, yeah. Rick.
All right, everybody.
So much for joining us. Have a great trip.
Hey, Rick.
And
we'll have to do a feedback extra sometime in the future to kind of catch up on this huge backlog of feedback. But
we will. I'll be back on Sunday, and I've got offices the entire week next week, so I'm going to be around.
Oh, great.
So just let me know. Okay.
Why don't we do that? Okay.
All right.
Take care, man.
Take care, you guys. See ya.
See you, Rick.
All right, bye.
Cheers, Rick.
Bye.
All right. We're going to keep on going, though, for at least a few more minutes and get this as close to 3 hours as we can and knock out as much as we can, if you don't mind.
I don't mind.
How about you? The two of you still game for a little bit longer? I know it's late over there.
No, yeah, I'm good.
Okay. So let's see. Let's get back to our feedback bag, our mail bag. And let's see, where do we want to go with next? Anything in here that looked kind of...
there was that audio that you were talking about.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Let's see. Let's see if we can find that audio from a certain character. And wow, we have a lot of feedback. I am scrolling the whole time that I'm talking. I'm scrolling
I haven't even seen
and
it yet.
scrolling and scrolling. Where
well,
is
now
it?
It's got to go the other direction. Maybe it's all the way at the bottom. Yeah. No.
You know what?
No.
Maybe I should have come to the rehearsal.
Yeah, we rehearsed this though.
Yeah. Where is it? Okay, well, Stephanie's going to sing for us while
I'm not going to sing.
Okay. Hey, I have an idea. Let's play some bumper music, and nobody will know any different.
There you go.
Hi, APGers. It's the old curmudgeon here. This week, I thought I might tell you about Taffy Holden, who flew a Lightning. Well, that doesn't sound very remarkable, does it? Even though the English electric Lightning was a remarkable fighter. Capable of Mach 2, the Lightning had been taken to 88,000 feet and successfully intercepted a U-2, previously thought to be unreachable. It could take off in around 2,000 feet and could provide a constant climb rate of 20,000 feet a minute, at least until reaching the tropopause, and could famously go supersonic in a climb. So all in all, an impressive aircraft for its time, but mastered by plenty of RAF pilots. So what was so impressive about Taffy Holden? Well, I'll tell you. Taffy Holden flew a single-seat Mark 1A Lightning X-ray Mike 135, but he wasn't a pilot. He was an engineer. Wing Commander Taffy Holden ran 33 Maintenance Unit at RAF Lynham and was preparing X-ray Mike 135 for dispatch to a target facilities flight. Now, Taffy admits that he had some flying experience on Tiger Moths and the like, as in those days it was considered useful training for engineers to gain a little flying experience, but that was it. This particular Lightning had proved troublesome. It had a recurring electrical fault that occurred early in the takeoff roll and robbed the flight instruments of power. Pilots had repeatedly snagged the aircraft, and components had been replaced without success, and eventually the pilots refused to fly it further until it had been fixed. Taffy, left in a dilemma, took it upon himself to fast taxi the aircraft to reproduce the fault. And after only a cursory brief on how to start and run the engines, he had it towed out onto a disused runway to experiment. As luck would have it, the foreman of engine trades did mention that once reheat was selected, latches had to be pulled to allow the throttles to be retarded. Having no working radio, a Land Rover was nearby to relay permissions to do each run with hand signals. A couple of short runs were performed without incident until Taffy made his near-fatal error. Opening up the throttles for the next run, he pushed them a little too far and into the reheat range where they latched into position, and the aircraft leapt forward like only a Lightning could. Ahead of him, crossing the runway, was a 3,600-gallon fuel Bowser, which he passed behind as the aircraft accelerated, and he desperately tried to find the latches to release the throttles. He passed over the intersection with the duty runway, this time just behind a departing de Havilland Comet, and with airspeed building and the village of Bradenstoke beyond the end of his short runway, he pulled back on the stick and took to the air. With clear blue sky ahead, Taffy had time to look in, find the latches, and pull back the throttles. Turning to try and keep the airfield in sight, he thought about ejecting, but his seat was in safe-to-servicing state, with every device pinned, making it useless. Wobbling around a circuit, Taffy tried to line up on the duty runway, but made a complete mess of his first attempt. His second go was worse as he descended into a valley on the approach until he was below the runway, and his third go was not much better. He decided to try the runway from the other direction, and after a long final, he gradually got the aircraft into a reasonable position, and he plonked it onto the runway, crunching the tail into the tarmac. This had the unfortunate effect of cutting through the cables of the brake chute, so when he deployed it, it fell out uselessly onto the tarmac. Hanging onto the brake lever, he hauled the aircraft to a halt with a mere 300 feet of runway left. For 12 desperate minutes, Taffy Holden hung on to his life. 2 or 3 of his landing attempts had come so close to killing him, it's hardly surprising that he was something of a nervous wreck. Over the next few years, he spent time in hospital, coming to terms with the mental anguish that his exploits inflicted on his emotions. A unit inquiry resulted in a formal interview with the Commander-in-Chief, after which he was invited to remove his hat and sit down, whilst the Air Marshal then proceeded to regale Taffy with stories of his own escapades flying in Mesopotamia. At the time, some rather fanciful versions of this story were published, but this one is taken from Taffy's own account. And should you ever get the chance to visit the Duxford Aircraft Museum in Cambridgeshire, there you will find Taffy Holden's Lightning.
Excellent. Thank you, Old Curmudgeon, for that feedback. Do you know anything about that, Nick?
Not a lot, but I'll pass on your
I'm
thanks.
sorry. I muted you. My bad. Let me unmute you. There you go.
No, it was a story that was famous when I was and I remember seeing a report of it in flight safety magazines. But no, I wasn't intimately involved in it.
Wow, that was something else. Taffy Holden, holding on to his life.
For sure. For sure. Very nice guy from what I gather, but his hair went prematurely white.
I'll bet. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's an incredible airplane from your description of it.
Yeah, the Lightning was sort of a little bit before the F4, or certainly before we got the F4. You know, those two enormous, I think they were Avons, mounted vertically, one on top of the other, and the pilot was sort of perched on top, almost astride them. There's a bit of an afterthought, but it's the problem was it had very little fuel capacity. So, they used to do 20, 30-minute sorties. The idea was that it would leap off the runway, go and defend our country against the Russian hordes or the Soviet Union hordes, and then rush back again to refuel, rearm, and off we go again. So a bit of a point defense airplane, which actually turned out to be not the best thing. So they ended up slapping all sorts of belly tanks on the later versions to try and give it more fuel. But even then, it ran out very quickly, and it received very little attention in regards to missile modifications and the like. So it was it sort of got a bit dusty and left in the corner eventually. But a remarkable airframe for sure.
Very cool.
Sounds like it. And by the looking at some of the comments in the chat room regarding the bandwidth, I guess Paul is the winner today. His bandwidth is getting high marks for his picture being consistently there. Yeah, so we do apologize for the lack of bandwidth at some of our locations. Jeff in the chat room mentioned the Blue Angels fly past at the we call it a flyby at the Super Bowl, which was last weekend, and that was a
disappointing game.
It was a disappointing game.
But
yes,
the Blue Angels were great.
The Blue Angels were at the very beginning before they even started their first play, and from that point it went downhill, I guess, for Dr. Steph and her team, the Carolina Panthers. I know. But anyway,
but actually that was a cool. I think that the video that he posted in the chat room there, and we can probably put a link to it in the show notes as well, was the one with the audio, so you can listen in.
I have not seen that one.
Yeah, it was one someone posted on Twitter today, I think, or it's in our feedback. I'm
I
not
think
sure
that
which, but
Lady Gaga did a nice job of stretching the national anthem to coincide with the very end, or with the flyby coming past, or whatever.
Sure.
There's a little link there which I've just put in the chat room. It's the same Blue Angels flyover, but it's a 360 video version.
Oh, really?
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and if you view
I've
it
seen
in
that.
Firefox, it's incredible. You can essentially move the camera around 360 degrees of kind of the pilot's vision. So it's weird. It's really, really cool.
Well,
yeah,
I'm going
the
to look
camera's
at it
perched in the back of one of the flight cockpits of one of the guys in the more or less the center of the formation. So you can look at the wingman, and you can look at either wingman, or look up and look down. It's absolutely brilliant. And of course, the Blue
I've not
Angels are
seen that
very famous for their nigh on overlapping formation. Very, very tight formation. Probably the tightest of any team I know. I remember there was a movie of them in when they were flying A4s, done to the music of, rock artist. God, his name's just gone out my brain. He did one called Dreams. Vangelis, someone like that. Does that ring a bell? They recently re-videoed it with the F-18 latest team. But I remember sitting watching it over and over again with an old mate in the Australian Air Force called Binny, and he loved it, and it was brilliant. And Binny went on to become the Commander-in-Chief of the Royal Australian Air Force. So, yeah, good taste.
Sam in the chat room mentions that there is also a great, I have seen this one, the 360 video of an A320. It's great technology, and we're seeing more and more of it. I'm not going to click on any of these links, though, because our bandwidth here is not very good, and I'm probably going to tank the whole darn blab if I do. So
suddenly disappear.
Yeah.
Like, goodbye.
But anyway, so what do you think? You want to shut it down, or you want to do some more feedback? What do you think, Dr. Steph?
Well, if you had one in particular one in mind, otherwise we're going to have to search through. I don't even remember where we left off, to be honest.
Yeah. You know what? Is Pip still with us?
Yep.
Okay. Let's hear what he has to say.
Perfect.
Guys, it's Pip again with another quick bit of feedback from episode 203, which I was just listening to when I went out running. Managed to get lost, actually, somehow, on a straight road with no turn. I don't know what happened. Came out of the hotel, turned left, ran for a few miles, turned round and came back, and somehow I managed to get lost. Very odd. Anyhow, one of the things you were discussing was a bit of feedback someone had sent you where they said that apparently there were some operators taking off in low vis and they were departing with less than the required RVR, and everyone tutted and said that's very naughty and they shouldn't be doing that. And, well, actually, I'm not sure that's entirely the case. At least here under EASA Ops, under European operations, there are a couple of caveats which, if I understand them right, might let you depart with less than the required RVR. And it goes like this. So the basic minimum RVR, if the airport allows it, the minimum RVR you can depart with is 150 meters for most operators, okay? I don't know what that is in US miles, eighth of a mile or something. I'm not really sure. Now, you need to have the required RVR for all sectors that are relevant for that takeoff, run, and accelerate stop distance, except with a caveat under EASA Ops, as I say, that the initial part of the RVR can be replaced by pilot assessment. So if you taxi out to the runway and all of a sudden they're giving you 125 meters, 150, 150, well, that initial part can be replaced by pilot assessment. And so what you do, you count the edge lights or the center lights, and if from the cockpit you can see that you have your required 150 meters or more, then you can replace that initial RVR. Now, obviously, that maybe is where this story comes from, and that is open to some abuse, I guess. If you get out there and suddenly your RVR has dropped below minima and you just kind of count the lights and say, well, it's close enough, we'll go. Okay, so you can abuse that. So that would be naughty. But under European operations, you can do that. And then the next thing that you can do is actually reduce those minimas down to 125 meters. To do that, you need to be approved. You need to do special simulator training, which most operators do. We go down to 125 meters. And in order to do that, you have to have, amongst other things, the high-intensity runway light spaced at 15 meters, and you have to have the edge light spaced at 60 meters. And you also have to have a visual segment from the flight deck of 90 meters. So how do you measure that? Well, again, it's the center lights. You pull up to the threshold and you count the center light. So if you can see 6 lights which are spaced at 15 meters, you then have your required 90 meter visual segment. Why you have to have a 90 meter visual segment when you're operating at 125 meters? Well, actually, I don't know. If anyone there knows, then I'd be grateful for an answer. but that's one of the requirements. Now, what's less clear to me now that I've looked into this actually is if you're operating right down at 125 meters, if that initial RVR can be replaced with pilot assessment. My SafeJet manuals is very definite that it can be replaced by pilot assessment. But now that I've looked at the particular EU ops, I'm less certain because that doesn't seem to suggest you can do that. So that's something I'm going to have to take up. But interestingly, actually, you can even go down less than 125 meters, all the way down to 75 meters, in fact, minimum takeoff visibility if you have an approved heads-up display, or I can't think what they call it, EVS, Enhanced Vision System, which some of our aircraft do, not the aircraft I fly, unfortunately, but some of them these days do have heads-up displays, and these, I think they're infrared systems. So if you've got one of those and it's approved, then you can go all the way down to as little as 75 meters, which is really quite interesting. Anyhow, that's my thoughts on that. If anyone's got anything to add to that, or if you think I'm not quite correct there, then do let me know, because I'd be interested to know. But for sure, when you're down at 150 meters, you can replace that initial RVR with a pilot assessment. So maybe that's where that story came from that you were discussing. Anyhow, have a good show, everyone, and I'll look forward to joining you live in the chat room. Take care, all. See you next time.
And that was pilot legend and podcast extraordinaire of the Plane Safety Podcast, Pilot Pip. Thank you there. And he's also with us in the chat room. Nick, any comments regarding those insanely low values for RVR?
That's good stuff, Pip. No, I'm very glad you were able to set us straight. I can only go by the company manual since I'm not anal enough to go into the base documents that EASA put out. So I just refer to my company manuals, and obviously my company don't think it's suitable to replace a pilot assessment when an RVR readout is there and available. But of course, that if you're allowed to do it on EASA and you're not limited by your company requirements, then yeah, that's fine. We've been 125 meters like you, which is you're a little bit closer to the runway, so I won't say it's easier, but a different view from down there. We're a little higher, so it is quite interesting. And actually, it's not a hard thing to do, take off in that visibility when you get a bit of speed up, because the runway lights move fast underneath you, and they sort of strobe, and you get a real indication of where the centerline is. The hardest thing is actually during a rejection, and that's really the importance of the mid and, more importantly, the rollout section. So if you do a rejection, particularly if you've lost an engine, you've had a bit of a strong swing, that you're off the center line, you're now desperately trying to find your way back into the middle of the runway in very foggy conditions. That has obvious problems attached to it. So that's the good reason for not trying to press your limits. And I'm not a great believer in pressing limits either on the approach or on the departure. So I'd much rather just sit and wait for the weather to improve or go back to the bar.
Sounds like one of those things that maybe just because it's legal doesn't mean it's prudent or a good idea.
Oh, exactly right. I mean, I remember going into LA on a really filthy day and doing a Cat 3 landing, and we really had to grope to find the runway. And it was only later on did we realize that low visibility procedures hadn't actually been declared, and there were still guys doing Cat 1 landings when the weather was just way below Cat 1 minima. And I was just amazed at how some operators were prepared to push the limits just to, get the flights completed.
Keep their schedule.
Yeah, exactly right. Oh, God, this is absolutely mad.
You see that all the time. People pushing it beyond, what you should, and that's definitely a risk factor out there. And it's a temptation, especially when the previous 3, 4, 5, 10 airplanes made it in under those same conditions. It's really tough for you to make the right decision, the correct decision.
I'm sure you say, well, they made it. Why can't we make it?
It's definitely a human factor that we have to guard against.
There you go, Pip. That's the subject for one of your next safety broadcasts. That'd be good.
Great show. Need to check it out. Plane Safety Podcast. I'm sure that everybody listening already does. But just in case you're out there and you've not heard of it, please check it out. And looks like it's time now for us to end the show. Unfortunately, we have so much more to talk about. Paul, thank you so much, our app guy, for coming on the app guy, I should say, for coming on the show.
It's been a pleasure. A lot of fun.
Yeah, it's been great to meet you, Paul. Thanks very much indeed. What a lot of work you must have put into that. What a fabulous result.
Absolutely. And the numbers are just outstanding or astounding to me already, people downloading it. So hopefully everybody will enjoy the app, and I'll learn how to input things a little bit better and more frequently so that it becomes more useful for everyone. And the rest of the team, I'm sure, will be included as well, because I think that's important, not only to me, but to them and the community. So, Paul, man, I just can't give you enough props for, of course, I haven't pressed that prop button on the blab, but if I could multiply it by 1,000 or 1,000,000, I would do it. And I think, though, the best thing for me to do right now, because this is actually an audio podcast, I should probably do this. There we go. There's our applause.
Yay.
For Paul Whittle, the app guy, a new and big part of the APG team. So thank you again.
Thank you very much.
For coming on the show with us.
Brilliant.
Yeah, and no worries, Jeff. We'll help you out with some of the stuff you asked for help with at the beginning.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I know you. So I made you feel guilty enough now to actually commit to this?
I suppose.
All right. So keep sending in the feedback. You too, if you haven't yet, send feedback to feedback@airlinepilotguy.com. You can use the feedback form on the website. You can even use the feedback form on your mobile device. And we'll do our best to get to it, if at all possible. If you want to send some audio feedback, you can call area code 30499-PILOT. That's 304-997-4568. And also we have something called SpeakPipe. You heard from several folks on today's show that used SpeakPipe, and you can do that by going again to the website, airlinepilotguy.com, and you can look under the Contact Us tab, and there you'll find the link to the SpeakPipe functionality. And we love hearing from you, whether it's email or whether it's your own voice, which we actually prefer because we just love hearing from you. Oh, the other thing you were going to mention, Dr. Steph, is in the app, when you set up your own profiles, put
a picture. We like to see what you look like too. That's much more exciting than either not having a picture or having something that's kind of a generic image off of the internet or something like that.
Or a stupid avatar like a guy that has a big mustache. And
actually, avatars are okay as long as it looks kind of like you.
Okay. And so anyway.
That was just a personal request from me, but I mean, do whatever you want.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's great to see pictures of people and also hear their voices with audio feedback and all that jazz. So again, so much. Thank you again to our website guru, Arash, who's continuing to improve the site.